Welcome to the fantasy audiobook. Jujutsu Kaisen. Curse Return, fusion with Madara and provoking Sukuna at the start. Chapter 61. Don't move. Zenin Naoya stood there in a daze, and found that he couldn't move his whole body. Curse. Impossible. How did you do it? Feng Wuxi's eternal Mangekyo Sharingan can copy curses, and he has recently gained curse power, so he can use curses. Fushiguro Megumi, who was tied up with ropes, was also dumbfounded. Currently, it seems that only Otsutsukoshi Yuta can copy. As for Feng Wuxi's ability, they are still unclear. It's just a curse, what's so surprising? Get out. The next moment, Zenin Naoya, who was standing on the spot, flew out, and a big hole was smashed in the main courtyard behind him. It is indeed the curse of the dog roll. Coupled with the inexhaustible cursed power, it is simply a bug-like spell. Zenin Naoya stood up with difficulty. He did not expect Feng Wuxi to be able to use the spell. The internal barrier has been broken, leaving only the last high-intensity barrier, which is the one that Feng Wuxi did not deal with. Fortunately, the strongest barrier was set up by Zenin Naohito before his death, which combined the special grade sorcerer for a period of time. His legs kept shaking and his back was severely injured. There was no support at hand, making it difficult for Zenin Naoya to get up, and he couldn't even stabilize his body. I don't understand. I heard a few days ago that a special grade sorcerer emerged from the Spellmaster College. But I don't know your ability. I think your ability is probably to copy. It's a good guess, but it's just the tip of the iceberg. This is just one of the abilities of the eyes. Feng Wuxi slowly approached Zenuan Naoya on the ground. Now keeping Zenuan Naoya is still useful. I always feel that their purpose is not just to kill Fushiguro Wei and seize the head of the family. What is your purpose? Where did the other members of the Zenuan family go? Zenuan Naoya seemed to have lost his mind and kept grinning at Feng Wuxi. Then he started to mock Feng Wuxi. If I tell you, will you let me live? Ha ha ha. Feng Wuxi couldn't stand this kind of provocation. He wanted to use the most painful power to put an end to Zenin Naoya. Do you think I don't know your intentions if you don't tell me? He has hands and feet, and has powerful connections. It is easy for him to investigate Zenin Naoya's intentions. He pinched Zenin Naoya's neck with his right hand. If you think he will twist his neck next, you are wrong. It was only a moment of pain and could not make him die happily. The Rinnegan created an illusion, trapping Zenin Naoya in an illusion forever. This is where. What did you do? Zenin Naoya found himself in a barren wasteland. It was difficult to understand how Feng Wuxi did it. Before Zenin Naoya could react, he found himself firmly fixed on the roots of a tree. He wanted to break free from the control, but he couldn't exert any strength. Zenin Naoya's eyes gradually became terrified. Now Zenin Naoya was in the illusion created by Feng Wuxi, and countless sharp knives appeared in front of him. This move actually imitated Itachi, making Zenin Naoya suffer endlessly. He will spend 365 days in the created environment, and the flow of time inside and outside is different. From the outside, it may be less than half an hour, or only about 10 minutes. But for Zenin Naoya, it is undoubtedly quite painful. He will endure 365 days of non-stop sharp knives piercing his body. After experiencing endless pain, he may have a mental breakdown the moment Zenin Naoya comes out of the illusion. Fushiguro Megumi didn't understand what Feng Wuxi had done. Zenin Naoya, who was still screaming just now, was directly mute. Is Zenin Naoya dead, or did you do something else? Feng Wuxi turned around and untied the rope on Fushiguro Wei. Anyway, Zenin Naoya was already useless. Leave a clone here, and when Zenin Naoya wakes up, that is when the pain will end. Continue to make him despair. This is the most painful way to die. It is better to die happily than to immerse himself in infinite despair. I didn't do anything, I just gave him a taste of his own medicine. The clone will take you out of the barrier. You are not in good condition, so go out and rest first. The barrier has not been lifted yet. Even the experienced Kusakabe will have a hard time dealing with groups of second-level cursed spirits. There are only 2,000 cursed spirits. The underground tunnel of Zenin's house is very large and can easily accommodate 2,000 cursed spirits. After rescuing Kusakabe and Maki Mei, a sky-shaking star will destroy Zenin's house. Of course, Feng Wuxi still took the map. Without the map, he really couldn't find the entrance to the underground tunnel. The entrance to the tunnel was hidden very well. Fortunately, he found the mark made by Kusakabe in advance. It can be distinguished as a man-made mark at a glance, and the soil on the ground is very soft. It was a mark made not long ago. Push aside the weeds next to it and open the door leading to the underground tunnel. The tunnel is very dark. It is not a problem to find Kusakabe under the guidance of the system. Maki, there are more and more cursed spirits. This is not a solution. Zenin Maki glanced at Zenonmai on the ground. It was just as Kusakabe Atsuya said. Not only was her condition, but her sister's condition was not good either. If she couldn't get treatment as soon as possible, she might soon die. Ieri Shoko was not at the technical high school, so it was impossible to treat Mai in a short time. The clone took Fushiguro Megumi out of the Zenin family's barrier. It was not far from Shibuya, so he planned to find Nida first. Nida was at the technical high school, and his technique could prevent the wound from getting worse. After Feng Wuxia had resolved the matter over there, he would go find Shoko. This was the only way to save Zenonmai at present. Totally unable to cope. If Feng Wuxia doesn't come, I'm afraid we will all die here. Maki can't hold on for long. She is still seriously injured. Kusakabe can't take care of everyone. He can't handle it himself. Cursed spirits are pouring out from all directions. He took out a lighter from his pocket. If he didn't have one at this time, he might not be able to hold on. Holding a cigarette to fight the cursed spirits, Maki's speed is getting slower and slower. Maki's wounds are getting worse and worse. It seems that she can't hold on for long. Don't move. Kusakabe Atsuya and Zenin Maki only felt a strong and irresistible force spreading throughout their bodies. Maki was the first to find out that something was wrong. This was Gowan's curse. Could it be that Gowan was here too? But the voice just now didn't sound like Gowan's. It sounded more like Feng Wuxia's voice. Is Gowan here too? I don't know, it was just me and Feng Wuxia when we came. Kusakabe Atsushi was also confused. Logically, Gowan should be on his way to the death migration. He shouldn't be at Zenin's house. Feng Wuxia walked out, took the loudspeaker in his hand, and walked out of the dark tunnel. Feng Wuxia, why would he curse? Before Maki could figure out the situation, she saw groups of cursed spirits dissipating. I don't know either. To be honest, from the time I evaluated Feng Wuxia as a special grade sorcerer until now, the information about him is unknown. Maybe it's similar to Otsutsuki Yuda's ability. Kusakabe Atsushi had no choice but to think in this direction. Zenin Maki didn't say much. The ability to copy is rare, but it's not like no one has it. You guys go out first, I'll take care of the rest of the cursed spirits. A punch broke more than a dozen cursed spirits, and the chain reaction that followed took away hundreds of cursed spirits. It took Kusakabe and Maki a long time to deal with hundreds of them, but Feng Wuxia only took a moment to deal with them. Do you know about Chanyuan Shan's plan? Feng Wuxia asked Chanyuan Junshi tentatively. Chanyuan Shan is her father, so Junshi would know some of the plan. I'm sorry I didn't know. That old guy not only didn't say anything, but also planned to kill us. Seeing that Zenin Maki didn't know about Zenin Shan's plan, Feng Wuxia was very concerned about the sudden disappearance of the Zenin clan members. Kusakabe Atsuya walked out of the tunnel with the seriously injured Zenin Maki and the unconscious Zenin Shinji. There were only 2,000 cursed spirits, just enough for Feng Wuxia to exercise his body. It's not good to be too relaxed all the time, so he might as well take this opportunity to practice. The cursed spirits can distinguish the breath of the sorcerer, and the man in front of them is the strongest sorcerer they have ever seen, no doubt about it. The cursed power on his body gushed out, like a bottomless pit. The cursed spirits began to think about retreating, and Feng Wuxia made seals with both hands. Anyway, the Zenin family is useless, so it's better to destroy this place. System, open storage space. Take all weapons with you before leaving. Maybe it can be used. In a few seconds, the Zenin family's arsenal was emptied, except for the Zenin Naoya in the illusion. After confirming that there were no living people in the Zenin family, he decisively released the ninjutsu. The meteorite released this time was about the same size as the last time. Anyway, the Zen temple was very big and far away from the high school. It would take him a while to fight more than 2,000 cursed spirits. It would be better to destroy them all directly. No, do not want. I'll tell you everything. Zenin Naoya woke up on the ground. He experienced endless pain. He almost had a mental breakdown, but fortunately he persisted with his extraordinary perseverance. He thought he had escaped, but he didn't expect that a meteorite that covered the sky and the sun would appear in the sky the next moment. His heart continued to sink to his throat. Feng Wuxia clearly didn't want to let him go. Even if Zenin Naoya escaped, where could he escape to? Zenin Maki and others had left the Zenin family early and retreated to a safe area, so Feng Wuxia dared to release the meteorite boldly. This time Feng Wuxia did not choose to watch the meteorite fall, but drove the Susanoo complete body out of the range of the meteorite. In order to avoid fluctuations to himself, it will take some time to restore the body. But the current situation is urgent, and the news came from the clone. The death migration has added a rule that refuses clones and swimmers other than the original body to enter the death migration. This means that Feng Wuxia himself must participate in the death migration. And in the barrier of the death migration, the clone cannot be released to help other people in the high school. This trick again. Zenin Maki and Kusakabe Atsushi beside them were also confused. What did this mean? Do you mean, isn't this the first time Feng Wuxia has released a meteorite? Kusakabe Atsuya made a bold guess, and Fushiguro Megumi nodded. It was indeed the same as Kusakabe's guess. The last meteorite was about the same size as this one. Fortunately, Feng Wuxia had a clone outside, and he took a few people to a safe area instantly. What a monster. Are you sure this move can be used by humans? Zenuan Maki hesitated and looked towards Feng Wuxia's position. Because the distance was too far, she had to squint. She immediately found a blue dot flying towards the position of the few people. Fushiguro, what is that? Is it an illusion? I always feel that there is a blue thing flying towards us. Zenin Maki's words attracted the attention of Fushiguro Megumi and Kusakabe Atsuya. They all looked in the direction of Maki's sight. At first, it was still a little blurry. As Feng Wuxia Susanoo's completed body got closer and closer, they finally saw it clearly. There was a blue giant with wings flying in the sky, and it was very fast. At this speed, it would reach their location in less than 10 seconds. Is it an enemy? It's still the Zenin family's trump card. Kusakabe got ready for battle, but Fushiguro Megumi stopped him. Stop first, I think I have seen this giant there. Zenin Maki was very surprised that Fushiguro Megumi had seen this giant. He is very similar to Feng Wuxia's blue skeleton. Although Fushiguro Megumi has never seen the complete form of Susanoo, based on the third form of Susanoo and the meteorite released by Feng Wuxia, it can be inferred that this is Feng Wuxia. Could you please let me treat Miss Mei first? She's not in good condition. The sudden appearance of Nida startled Zenin Maki and Kusakabe Atsuya. When the clone took Fushiguro Megumi out of the barrier just now, he also took Fushiguro Megumi to find Nida, who was in the high school. Mr. Nida, you are here too. I'm sorry to scare you. As Nida apologized, he touched Zenin Shinji's back with both hands. He used his unique technique to barely stabilize the injury and prevent it from getting worse. Wei, did you bring Mr. Nida here? It's not him, I brought it here. Zenin Maki didn't react when Feng Wuxia suddenly appeared. Fortunately, she had seen Feng Wuxia's clone before, so she didn't show too much surprise. Feng Wuxia has so many clones. News came from the front line that Feng Wuxia's clones appeared all over Tokyo. Now most of the civilians in the Tokyo barrier are safe and sound. Kusakabe Atsushi also understood Feng Wuxia's situation. For the high school, Feng Wuxia is definitely the top combat force. The other sorcerers on the front line can have a breather. During the conversation, Feng Wuxia has come to the front of them. Release the Susanoo complete body form and quietly appreciate his masterpiece. At this moment, Zenin Naoya at Zenin's house was in great pain. He had just released the illusion and was facing death again. God, if I am guilty, punish me with the law. Not in this way. Zenin Naoya had collapsed. The meteorite in the sky was getting closer and closer. He was so scared that he couldn't speak. A few seconds later, the entire Zenin family was razed to the ground by the meteorite. The Zenin family is so unfortunate. You have offended such a great god. Fushiguro Megumi taunted Zenin Naoya, saying that the matter of the high school was over and they would go to the Tokyo barrier to participate in the death and annihilation journey. Before Yuji Itadori left, Tianyuan grabbed Yuji Itadori's shoulder and told him to work as a head of a police station in a parking lot in Tochigi Prefecture. Senior Guan, is Senior Cheng really in there? Salmon. Judging from the tone of Gojumaki's voice, they were not sure if the other party was inside. Moreover, the two did not know much about the suspended Kinji Hyo. They only knew that Gojo Satoru had mentioned him before. Simply put, Kinji Hyo was doing black boxing in the parking lot and made a lot of money from the black boxing business. The so-called black boxing means letting the sorcerers go to the fighting arena. The guests watching the game were basically non-sorcerers. Kinji Hyo's behavior had completely violated the regulations of the sorcerer world. At the same time, it violated the last bottom line of a sorcerer. After several twists and turns, they finally found the parking lot, and the two found a secluded place to change clothes. The reason why Kinji Hyo was suspended was because he contradicted the top management. If they knew that Gojumaki and Yuji Itadori were from the technical high school, they would most likely escape through the back door. I always feel that senior scale is not very reliable. The other seniors don't have a very good opinion of him. Menteko. Yuji Itadori still had some concerns, worried that Kinji Hyo was not very reliable, but Yuta Otsutsukoshi said that Kinji Hyo could catch up with him when he was in good shape, and he was a great fighting force in the high school. Anuju and Yuji Itadori crossed the fence and entered the underground parking lot. The air inside was very humid and the ventilation system was not very good. There was a strange smell in the air. Fortunately, Anuju's clothes blocked his nose. Itadori looked very uncomfortable and it seemed that he could hardly accept this smell. Hey, those two little brats over there. This is not the place for you to come. Seeing Anumaji and Yuji Itadori enter the underground parking lot, the thugs stepped forward to drive the two away. When I count to 3, you turn around. If you dare to look back, I will beat you up. Yuji Itadori felt someone tapping his shoulder and looked back hesitantly. Fushiguro Megumi was standing behind Yuji Itadori. He was supposed to go to the Tokyo battlefield to participate in the death migration. But he was always worried about Yuji Itadori, this sloppy guy. So he asked Feng Wuxia to take a detour and send him to Yuji Itadori. Feng Wuxia did not refuse. After all, releasing a clone would not hinder the progress of going to the Tokyo battlefield to participate in the death migration. Fushiguro Megumi walked forward with a very calm expression on his face and said, "We need money. Let's have a fight here." As soon as Fushiguro Megumi finished speaking, the big hand on the opposite side didn't care about Fushiguro Megumi and the others at all. He rushed forward to hit Fushiguro Megumi, and the huge fist stopped a few centimeters away from Fushiguro Megumi. This was just a test of courage. If you still dodge the enemy's fist, you are not qualified to participate in the fight in the underground parking lot. Then the big hand began to introduce the rules of the underground parking lot to the three people. Rule 1. The fight must be kept strictly confidential. Also, who did you hear about the underground boxing ring from? Fushiguro Megumi had done a lot of preparation in advance and looked up a lot of information on his phone. He found that a boxer disappeared here for no reason a month ago. He might as well use him as an introducer. It's impossible to confront him face to face when he's gone. He lied that he got the news from the missing player. I can fill his gap. If you don't believe in my strength, I can fight you first. I am deciding whether to let me participate in the black boxing. Another fighter in a suit has contacted Jinchi and quickly got permission. Boys, today's qualifying round is yours to participate in. But I want you to participate. Fushiguro Megumi looked very calm, not someone who is easy to mess with. Anuju said nothing and behaved very steadily. Only Itadori Yuji looked funny. With his years of experience, Otetsu selected the weakest of the few people, Itadori Yuji. He specifically asked Itadori Yuji to participate in the boxing. However, Fushiguro Megumi and Anuju thought differently, because the qualifying round was boxing and hand-to-hand combat. Itadori was very talented in this area, so there was no need to worry about Itadori Yuji. Senior Gowan, there are a lot of cameras in the underground parking lot. Kinji should be watching us somewhere. Fushiguro Megumi noticed that there was a camera in a shadowy corner, secretly monitoring their every move. We split up. Yuji, you go down there and fight underground, and find the location of Hyeinji from the inside. Senior Anujutsu and I will sneak into the parking lot, provided that you, Itadori, do not reveal any flaws. What Fushiguro Megumi said is not without reason. No matter what kind of boxing match, the identities of the contestants will be checked in advance. What's more, it's Kinji Hyo, who must be very wary of them. If they are found to be sorcerers from the Jujutsu High School, their credit will be ruined, and they will not be able to participate in boxing matches in this area. Of course, Fushiguro Megumi has made plans for the worst. Anujutsu can use spells here to restrict the activities of others. The worst-case scenario is to force our way in. Senior Go-on-en. You should pay attention to this aspect of Tiger Stick and always find opportunities to cooperate with us. Most of the people in the underground parking lot are low-level sorcerers. You should show your normal strength. Don't just go up and kill others instantly. The purpose of this trip is to ask for help, and to avoid excessive conflicts. Fushiguro Megumi doesn't want to act tonight, but Fushiguro Miki doesn't have much time. She needs to find Senior Kinji as soon as possible. Have you finished chatting? Come with me. A big hand separated several people. They were looking at Yuji Itadori. Next, they would take Itadori into the secret room to introduce the complete rules of the boxing match. The rules of underground boxing are simple. No escape allowed. The use of spells is not allowed. Yuji was confused. Isn't this a competition between sorcerers? Why is the use of spells prohibited? I don't understand. What does it mean to forbid the use of the technique? Big Hand looked at Yuji's silly look and patiently explained to Yuji the purpose of doing so. We need to take care of the ordinary people in the audience. The reason why sorcerers are prohibited from using spells. This is because the magic of some sorcerers is very powerful and can easily affect ordinary people. Ordinary people cannot see the cursed spirits and spells, so even if they foresee the danger, they cannot escape. No matter how fiercely the spellcaster uses spells, ordinary people will find it very boring if they can't see it. So hand-to-hand combat has become the rule of the underground boxing ring. So, what does it mean to not allow escape? Not allowing escape does not mean that you are sending yourself to death, but that the boxing match must be conducted within the audience's sight. There are roughly two types of underground boxing matches. The first type is the knockout match that Yuji participated in. There is no inside information involved, it is a real boxing match, a hearty fight. Of course, underground boxing matches cannot avoid the situation of match fixing. If Yuji Itadori performs very well, he will most likely meet Kinji Kyo tonight. Itadori could no longer hold back the smile on his face. It was purely hand-to-hand combat, with no spells allowed. He is now a first-class sorcerer, and his physical strength is enough to fight against weaker special-class cursed spirits. The boxing match in the underground parking lot was tailor-made for him. Soon after, the thugs took Yuji Itadori into the competition venue, and the middle floor of the underground parking lot was opened up. This made it easier for the audience and sponsors to see more clearly. The upper floor is for the audience and sponsors, and the lower floor is where the boxers fight. Yuji Itadori's opponent has entered the venue, and after both sides are in place, the referee begins to shout loudly. Yuji Itadori, Panda, get in position. Yuji Itadori couldn't suppress the smile on his face. He didn't expect that Senior Panda was also looking for Kinji Hyo. In this match, Yuji Itadori only needed to let go and fight, and he would have a chance to see Kinji Hyo behind the surveillance camera. Senior Panda, please don't show mercy. Definitely. Panda's acting career began. He said he would not let her win in this match. But if Yuji doesn't win, he won't see Kyo. So he will reveal a not-so-obvious flaw and let Yuji win. The fists of both sides touched, which represented the official start of the match. The referee retreated outside the competition area in an instant, fearing that he would be affected by the fight between the two. Kyo Kinji in the monitoring room was drinking a little wine out of boredom. He thought this fight was boring. Panda is quite famous in the world of curse, so he concluded that Yuji could not beat Panda in this match. What a boring battle. There is no point in fighting when the outcome is already known. Tiger Stick and Panda fought back and forth, and the referee began to comment passionately on the side. The fight between the two was the best fight the referee had ever seen in his life. The others were either killed instantly or fled when facing Panda, but the boy in front of him actually showed a gesture of suppressing Panda. The game entered a frenzy stage, and all the spectators were excited. The fight they had been waiting for was finally here. A real fight, a fight without a script, a hearty fight. I know Chang from old times. What? During the interval between the two people's battle, Panda began to share information with Yuji Itadori quietly. Chang has no suspicion of me, but he has always been behind closed doors. He hasn't seen you, maybe you have a chance to meet Kinji Hyo. Itadori found the right opportunity, and Panda accidentally revealed a flaw. Dialogue does not affect the battle, but it often disrupts one's thoughts and makes the body move slowly. A punch hit Panda's stomach, and Panda almost lost his footing and took a few steps back. This flaw was actually revealed by Panda on his own initiative, because Itadori and others did not reveal the identity of the high school. The reason why Kinji Hyo didn't see Panda was that Panda was from the high school. As long as Panda loses this game, Yuji Itadori will most likely meet Kinji Hyo. Panda was in a state of drama, and began to attack Yuji Itadori. Why is his fist so hard? You wait, I will go to the Animal Protection Association to punish you. The Panda admitted defeat, and the newcomer Yuji Itadori won the first game in the underground parking lot. The goal was achieved, and Kinji Hyo had always believed that the Panda would win this game. But he unexpectedly guessed wrong, and Kinji Hyo, as a gambler, was very dissatisfied. He immediately notified his men to summon the newcomer Yuji Itadori and asked him to go to the rooftop. Let the newcomers come upstairs. This guy's strength impressed me, so I'll make an exception and meet him. Another thing is that his companions are missing. Send someone to keep an eye on them, maybe they are plotting something. While his subordinates were talking to Kinji, Fushiguro Megumi used the calligraphy technique to wrap himself in a nujutsu. He heard all the conversations. Panda walked out of the parking lot to find Fushiguro Megumi. He knew that with Fushiguro Megumi's personality, he would definitely follow Yuji Itadori. At the same time, he saw a nujutsu, who was in the same grade, was also at the scene. Tiger Stick had a perfect boxing match. Basically, you can see Kinji Hyo. The Panda found Yuji Itadori and told him Kinji Hyo's location. Although I have not seen the scale, I have heard from other people that Chang is in the monitoring room on the top floor, with Chi Luoluo beside him. Her spell is very troublesome. Panda has also looked for Cheng Jinchi, but Chi Luoluo beside him has never solved the spell. No matter how Panda moves forward, he can't touch the door of the monitoring room. This is the opponent's spell. As long as the opponent doesn't want to see you, you will always enter the opponent's spell. I always feel that it is very similar to Gojo Sensei's technique. Kalera is a man, but he likes women's clothing. In short, he is a cross-dresser. When Panda found that he could not get close to the monitoring room no matter what, he thought that he was too impatient. This made the other party more vigilant. But it is better to be a boxer who can attract more audiences and slowly make Kageki relax his vigilance. This is the most reliable way for Panda at present. The question now is whether Yuji can successfully convince Senior Kiyoshi. Fushiguro Megumi pointed out the biggest problem. Even if Yuji met Kiyoshi Kinji, what would happen? If the other party did not agree to help the high school, it would be a wasted trip in the end. I think it's difficult, not because of the poor eloquence of Tiger Stick. The reason lies with Hyuga. Panda thinks it's Hyuga Kinji's own fault, but Panda still thinks if it's Yuji, there will be a chance. Yuji has a cheerful personality and is very good at socializing. Giving him more time might convince him. But they all overlook the most important issue, which is that Yuji Itadori is not good at lying. As long as there is a flaw, Kinji Itadori can accurately catch it. In the worst case, if Yuji reveals his identity as a high school master, LHE was kicked out of the monitoring room before the conversation. It is also possible that during the conversation, the identity of Yuji was discovered, and others forcibly intervened and took Yuji away. Either way, it is extremely unfavorable to Yuji's situation. Fushiguro, you should have been there the moment Yuji Itadori entered the monitoring room. Suppress the entire parking lot. Guard the door of the monitoring room to buy enough time for Yuji Itadori. Fushiguro Megumi looked embarrassed. It would be bad to fight and kill as soon as they arrived at the parking lot. Indiscriminate suppression is their worst-case scenario. Panda spoke to comfort Fushiguro Megumi. Don't worry, it's easy for Gohan to suppress others. At worst, let them have some sleep. Kelp, Panda has been in the underground parking lot for a while and has figured out the layout of the entire parking lot. He knows exactly where the cameras are and where the blind spots are. Senior Panda, what if you are discovered? This is not a big deal. I usually like to wander around in there, and Kyoko doesn't care about me. In the entire parking lot, except for the boxers, Kyoko's brothers are all ordinary people, so it's easy to deal with them. Right now, only Kurara's technique is very difficult to deal with, so we can only take it one step at a time. At this critical juncture, there is no reason to retreat. Boss, that kid has already gone upstairs. He did not find his accomplices. After hearing what his younger brother said, Cheng Jinchi did not care at all. As long as Chi Luoluo was around, it was easy to refuse a few people from entering the monitoring room. It doesn't matter. The meeting time I agreed with that guy is 1 a.m. Don't let the news get out, to avoid alerting the enemy. Panda and the others hid in the blind spot of the surveillance, and the conversation between the younger brother and Kinji Hyo was clearly revealed. In this case, Yuji will soon meet Kinji Hyo, and they must buy enough time to prevent others from interrupting the conversation between Yuji and Kinji Hyo. Senior Guwon, it's almost time. Salmon, looking at the watch, the time has come to 1 o'clock in the morning. Calculating the time, Kurara has already seen Yuji Itadori. Outside the rooftop monitoring room, Kurara personally greeted Yuji Itadori, who was stunned. Yuji Itadori followed behind Kurara and found that Kurara had a happy smile on his face, but was very puzzled. You seem to be smiling happily. Can you tell me the reason? Kurara looked at Yuji Itadori behind him and said happily. I stayed by the scale. Maybe it's because of you. I haven't seen Cheng so energetic for a long time. I like passionate scales the most. Click. Chi Luoluo opened the door of the monitoring room, and Fushiguro Megumi in the underground parking lot also began to act. Fushiguro Megumi relied on the advantage of shadow magic to hide in the shadows prepared in sight, waiting for an opportunity in the shadows. While the other party was not paying attention, he jumped out from behind and strangled his neck. He did not kill him, because the other party was an ordinary person, and he was just allowed to sleep. There will be no harm after waking up. After solving one, Fushiguro Megumi set his sights on other people, following the same method just now. Continue to solve the second person, this time hiding in the blind spot of the monitoring. The younger brothers in the monitoring room upstairs saw a strange scene from the surveillance. Panda was lying on the ground fiddling with discarded tires, and made a very funny expression. Panda's expression made the younger brothers in the monitoring room successfully relax their vigilance and no longer pay attention to Panda. The next second Panda flashed and appeared somewhere else, quickly solving other thugs. In this way, Panda and Fushiguro Megumi solved all the thugs in the underground parking lot and successfully met on the roof. Panda Sr., did we go too far? Fushiguro Wei still felt a little guilty. It was not good to attack ordinary people. Curse masters have always protected ordinary people, and according to the rules, they are not allowed to attack ordinary people. Don't worry, just let them sleep. It won't cause any trouble. Panda thought that as long as it didn't cause harm to ordinary people, it was necessary to take appropriate action. He urged Fushiguro Megumi to go to the door quickly. As luck would have it, Kurara, who was patrolling the door, ran into Fushiguro Megumi and Panda. It was really a slip-up. No one expected Kurara to be outside the monitoring room. Kurara's personality should be sticking to Kinji all day long, and it was obviously Panda's misjudgment. Kurara reacted immediately and realized that Fushiguro Megumi and Itadori Yuji were together. He had seen it in the monitoring room. That is to say, Itadori Yuji is very likely to be from the high school. Fushiguro, he's going to use his cell phone to tip off. I know. Fushiguro Megumi released the Shikigami, and when the Jade Dog was about to bite Kurara's arm, it seemed as if there was a strange resistance, and the Jade Dog was bounced away instead of retreating. According to the information previously revealed by Senior Panda, the Jade Dog was not bounced away, but could not get close to Kurara. Seeing that the matter was exposed, Panda explained. Wait, Kiluo Luo. We are not enemies, we just want to ask Chang for help with something. Kiluo Luo didn't listen to Panda's explanation at all, and ran directly to the monitoring room to report to Chang Jinchi. Panda's speed was much faster than Kiluolu, but he could not catch up with the other party. Because of Kiluolu's technique, Panda and Kiluolu were separated by a distance. Fushiguro Megumi ordered Yuquan to block the other party's way. Since he couldn't catch up, he had to block the door of the monitoring room. No one noticed that a strange 5-pointed star mark appeared on Panda's butt. Panda guessed that the mark was the reason why Kiluolu could not be approached, and in addition to the repulsive force that could not be approached, Kiluolu also mastered attraction. He could make the marked Fushiguro Megumi and Yuquan Hun stick together. Whether this is the original ability of the technique or the reversal of the technique is still unknown. In addition, when the technique is activated, Kiluolu seems to be affected himself. When Yuquan Hun stood in front of Kiluolu, Fushiguro Megumi seemed to have discovered that Kiluolu could not approach the marked object either. In the monitoring room, Chang Jinchi said to Yuzhong, "You only need to take 1 hour a day. Minimum monthly income of 7 figures. Life is a living game, and those who dare not bet are eliminated first. Those who hate gambling are not afraid to do so, but they are afraid of failure." Kiyoshi Kinji's philosophy has always been to seek wealth and honor in danger, and to take one step at a time. He deserves the title of gambler. Yuji felt that Kinji's words were more or less extreme. After all, there are still many people in this world who hope to live a stable life. The existence of the cursed spirit has actually been made public. You know it best, don't you? When the Tokyo barrier fell and the death migration began, the authorities were forced to announce the existence of sorcerers and cursed spirits to the public. This was no longer a rare thing. Hyo Jinji believed that this was his chance to show his ambitions. Taking advantage of the reform of the sorcery world, he wanted the sorcery world to recognize the existence of the fighting arena. Hyo Jinji was very short of people, most of them were ordinary people. Ever since Yuji defeated Panda, he had the idea of recruiting Yuji under his command. "Are you willing to go crazy with me?" Yuji didn't answer Kinji Hyo, as the current situation had already gone off track. Yuji came to the monitoring room to persuade Kinji Hyo to return to the technical high school and become its fighting force. Unexpectedly, Kinji Hyo wanted to regain himself. Before the action, Fushiguro Megumi told Yuji Itadori that the matter of the technical high school must be put last. The phone on the table rang, but it was hung up within a few seconds. Kinji Hyo looked at the call on his phone and fell into a brief contemplation. "Tiger Stick, would you like something to drink?" "Anything is fine." Kyojin-ji began to change the subject. He had already seen that Karara was in trouble. He had to temporarily stabilize Yuji Itadori in the monitoring room. "I'll drink anything, just don't give me alcohol. I'm only 18. Note: the age of adulthood in Sakura country is 20. Karara was speechless. Her technique was actually discovered by Fushiguro Megumi's few words. She said in great confusion, "Are you really a first-year student? It's really not cute at all." At this time, Fushiguro Megumi let go of Karara. Their purpose was to ask Kinji for help. He knelt on his knees and sincerely begged Karara, who was sitting on the ground. "Senior Kiluo Luo, I understand you don't believe us. But please listen to me. The days of Miki Fushigiro's participation in the death migration are really numbered," and Fushiguro Megumi seemed very anxious. After hearing Fushiguro Megumi's words, Karara did not resist for the time being, wanting to hear what Fushiguro Megumi meant. Before Panda and Fushiguro Megumi could calm down for a while, the door of the monitoring room was knocked open by 2 people. Oncoming were Yuji Itadori and Senior Kinji Hyo. The 3 people outside the monitoring room were in doubt, one wave after another. They had just solved the big trouble of Karara, and now they had to face Kinji Hyo. Itadori was lying on the ground, and Kinji Hyo walked out of the monitoring room angrily. His face was covered with scars and his hands were bruised. According to Fushiguro Megumi's words, they came to ask for help, so Yuji Itadori just resisted and did not make a move. Fushiguro Megumi and Panda wanted to take action, but Itadori stopped the 2. "Senior Panda, Megumi Fushiguro, please don't do anything. Leave it to me next." Chang Jinchi became even angrier. This was clearly looking down on him. "Are you looking down on me? The huge fist hit Yuji Itadori with such force that his entire face was deformed. The panda next to him had a ferocious look on its face, as if it could feel how painful the punch was. Fushiguro Megumi's expression was not very good either, and she stood by with her teeth bared. But Yuji Itadori was born to be able to withstand blows, and his physical strength was different from that of ordinary people. Yuji took the punch completely, and when he stood up again, he was like nothing happened. "I'm talking to you, kid. Is your brain not working properly?" Kyokinji could see that from the beginning to the end, Yuji Itadori had no intention of hiding. Blood flowed from Yuji Itadori's nostrils, but it was clear that Yuji's eyes were more determined. There is no such thing. Yuji Itadori knew that this was different from the Shibuya battlefield. If he didn't get Kinji Hyo's approval, he would never be able to sit down and talk calmly. He would not hide or give in until Kinji Hyo recognized his position. "You really are. It makes me excited." Unconsciously, Kinji Hyo's emotions were mobilized by Yuji Itadori, and he used his magical power to strengthen himself and prepare to launch a stronger attack. Yuji Itadori also gradually made Kinji Hyo interested. "I can listen to you. The premise is that you don't get beaten down by me." Yuji adjusted his state. He knew that Hyo Kinji had begun to gradually accept him. "It's a deal." Seeing that Chang Jinchi was getting serious, Chi Luoluo said from the side. "Scales, they are here to ask you for help. Why not listen to their purpose?" Hyo Kinji knew very well that he had never seen Yuji, but the other party insisted on seeing him. It was like asking for help from a stranger. The only possibility was that he knew Kyokinji's strength and sought help from him. While chatting with Chi Luoluo, another punch hit Yuji's body. Yuji could clearly feel that the punch was not powerful, but it hurt on the face. Kyokinji shouted, "Tiger stick," the premise of a sorcerer asking another sorcerer for help. "I want to make the other person feel my willingness to risk my life with you. You have to let me feel your passion. I can risk my life for you." Before Kyokinji could finish his passionate speech, Yuji, covered in wounds, said, "I have no passion, I'm just a part. It is a part that allows the magician to remove the curse." Kiyoshi Kinji didn't expect Yuji Itadori to say such a thing. This time, Kinji was really angry. Such boring words actually came out of his opponent's mouth. He rushed forward and punched Yuji Itadori again. Yuji Itadori flew out heavily and hit the iron railing behind him. Gojo Satoru had previously explained why Kinji's fist hurt so much. His curse power is much rougher than that of other magicians. Take Yuji Itadori and Squirrel Head and go back quickly. We don't welcome magicians from the high school here. When Kinji Hyo was talking to the panda, he didn't notice Yuji Itadori who suddenly appeared behind him. When he felt Yuji's aura, Kinji Hyo was so scared that he quickly stepped back. He didn't understand why Yuji could still stand up after he had been hit by 3 punches from him. "Senior, what is your mission?" Yuji Itadori acted very humbly, and then asked Kinji Hyo. Kinji Hyo was infected by Itadori's passion. He didn't expect Itadori to say that he was a spare part, but now he was infected by the spare parts. He felt the passion of Itadori is a spare part. The kind of passion that was radiant. Kinji Hyo waved his hand and said that he could talk to Itadori and others. He hadn't felt this kind of passion for a long time. "Let's make a deal," Kinji Hyo said to Fushiguro Megumi and Panda. Neither of them expected Kinji Hyo to be defeated so easily by Yuji. "Senior Hyayenji, we are not looking for you for anything else. Gojo-sensei has been sealed." Kiyoshi Kinji was very surprised, but this sentence came from Fushiguro Megumi's mouth. The information was very credible, and Kinji subconsciously patted his head. Kinji did not expect that so many things had happened during this period of time. "I can participate in the death migration. But after this, you have to agree to one thing." The panda knew everything and immediately said what was in the mind of Chang Jinchi. "You want us to help you push for reforms to the laws governing spells, right? The existence of the cursed spirit has been announced, and improvement is inevitable." Fushiguro Megumi said that he was the head of the Zenin family, and as long as Hyokinji didn't go too far, the reform would basically be successful. Hyokinji instantly became excited. Fushiguro Megumi knew that Feng Wuxia had ruined the Zenin family, but the reputation of the Gosen family was very big. It was easy to help Hyokanji, and the reform only required a word from Fushiguro Megumi. What is this? It looks so disgusting. Hiyori Kinji and Karara saw the little golden bug for the first time. Fushiguro Megumi patiently explained to them. This is the judge of the death migration. It must have established new rules. New rules added to death migration. You can view various information about other swimmers, including name, score, number of times the rule is added, and the enchantment it is in. Yuji, have you already participated in the death migration? Fushiguro Megumi saw that the little golden bug was the referee of the death migration, but it only appeared on swimmers. This means that Yuji is one of the swimmers in the death migration. It's Sukuna. Itadori quickly guessed that it was because of the Sukuna in his body that he became a swimmer. Sukuna was a real human being who existed more than 1,000 years ago. It is very likely that Sukuna and Nosozo signed a contract and became a cursed creature. In other words, Yuji Itadori ate Sukuna's finger. It might seem like an accident to outsiders, but it was actually planned by Sukuna. You ate Sukuna's finger with your own will. I am the witness. A few words cannot make a conclusion, there are too many mysteries hidden in it. Yuji Itadori has become a swimmer, and the others have to accept the fact. Xiao Jin, open the swimmer's information. Fushiguro, who is this Lu Xian? Yujin Itadori noticed a strange name. He only had 200 points, but spent 100 points to add the ability to view the information of other swimmers. Fushiguro Megumi looked embarrassed. This meant that Lu Xian had to kill at least 40 swimmers in such a short time to get so many points. Real or fake? 40 swimmers were killed. Yujin Itadori couldn't believe it, but according to the score sheet Xiaoshan gave and the swimmers' situation, Lu Xian really killed so many swimmers without any water. I don't know either. The specific situation can only be known after I join the death migration. The information Xiao Jin gave me cannot be false. He is the referee of the death migration, and all the information he gave is true. In other words, there is more than one special grade sorcerer in the death migration. Where is Sukuna? I want to challenge him. Lu Xian added a piece of information just to meet Sukuna as soon as possible. Fushiguro Megumi seems to have discovered a loophole in the death migration, and perhaps the death migration can be ended without killing anyone. Most sorcerers are forced to participate in the war, and the sorcerers who have signed a contract with Nosozoku in the past may not take this life and death match seriously. Then there must be people who have more than 100 points but do not add rules. This is one of the loopholes, and they can be used to create rules. Xiao Jin, list all swimmers with scores over 100 points. Higurashi Hiromi. Yuji also noticed that the person who currently has over 100 points is this person. We can add rules. Allow swimmers to transfer points to each other. Megumi Fushiguro's plan just happened to break one of the rules. Rule 8. If a swimmer's points do not change within 19 days, the technique will be revoked. In this way, the rules collide, and the new rules cover the old rules. The death migration can avoid internal fighting, but the plan will only be considered successful if Higurashi Hiromi agrees. At the same time, we can also add the most unsolvable rules. By spending a certain amount of points, you can successfully escape the rules of the death migration. Yuji didn't understand what Fushiguro Megumi meant, because the death migration is a long-term game. The rules that Fushiguro Megumi wanted obviously violated the wishes of the makers. Yuji, what if I add the rule of using non-swimmers as stand-ins? By replacing swimmers with non-swimmers, we can achieve the effect of escaping the barrier. The general direction has been determined. While searching the prison gate, we also need to find the angels. Lu Xian and Hikari Kwanjian's plans must also be carried out simultaneously. Fushiguro, why is there no information about angels? That shouldn't be the case, she's a swimmer. Yuji Itadori searched for a long time but still couldn't find any information about the angel, so he had to call Megumi Fushiguro to help him look for it. This is easy. Angel is not his real name, so we cannot find his information. Just like you, although you participated in the death migration, you did not participate in person, and your information cannot be found. Kyojinchi felt that this matter was becoming more and more unreliable. How can you find someone without a name? The Tokyo barrier is too big, just like looking for a needle in a haystack. It is almost impossible to find it. Jinchi and Panda go to area 2 inches. Fushiguro and Yuji go to zone 1. Chi Luo was waiting outside the barrier. This allocation is not without reason. I don't know which barrier the high school student Yuta Otsutsuki is in. It is more appropriate to put the powerful Jinchi in the same area as Lu Zion. And the angel is also in the second area. The panda's sense of smell is very sensitive. We just need to look for the angel with peace of mind. Fushiguro, Sukuna seems to be interested in you. Can I separate from you? When Fushiguro Megumi heard this, he scolded Yuji Itadori with a dark face. Already allocated, cannot be changed. Besides, we are going to Feng Wuxia's area, so don't worry too much. Inside the Tokyo barrier, it has long been a scene of the survival of the fittest. The weak hide in the corners and tremble, while the strong keep looking for swimmers to increase their points. Outside the barrier, Fushiguro Megumi once again reminded Yuji Itadori. Tiger Stick, listen carefully. There is a magician who was reborn in the flesh within the barrier. It is very likely that a magician from 1,000 years ago is inside, so we must be extra careful. The concepts of magicians in each era are different. As the times change, magicians have also changed. For example, most magicians around 400 years ago would fight to the death. They believed that dying on the battlefield was the best outcome. In order to avoid the appearance of such a madman, they need to be extra careful, at least before finding Feng Wuxia. The death migration refuses to split into 2 bodies, and only allows the original body to enter the death migration, so Feng Wuxia cannot take care of everyone. Once you enter the barrier, you will become swimmers. Are you sure you want to enter the barrier? Feng Wuxia's clone has been waiting outside the barrier for a long time. As long as a magician enters the barrier, the Samsara Eye will share the vision and report the opponent's information to the main body. Therefore, Feng Wuxia does not need Xiao Jin to know the opponent's strength and guess which area the opponent will go to. Let's go, Tiger Stick. Okay, let's get started. Yuji Itadori excitedly walked into the barrier, but the next second he appeared in midair. I forgot to say that. Magicians who invade the death migratory barrier will be randomly teleported, and there will be swimmers on the ground watching the newcomers. The clone just remembered this. The original body also appeared at an altitude of 100 meters. I forgot to share this with Itadori and Fushiguro Megumi. There are magicians waiting in the 9 locations, wanting to kill the opponent as soon as the opponent lands. In this way, enough points can be accumulated to add rules or maintain the situation of immortality. The spies below gave a signal and raised the fluorescent light in their hands. While Itadori was still in the air, a black figure rushed towards the falling Itadori Yuji. The attacker was very decisive and found that not only did the attack fail to kill Itadori Yuji, but also Itadori Yuji only suffered superficial injuries. He started to call his companions directly and waved people to besiege Itadori Yuji. After Yuji Itadori stood firm, he attacked the attacker without saying a word. Death migration is a large-scale real-life chicken game. Only by getting more points can new rules be added. He grabbed the bricks around him, attached the cursed power to the bricks, and threw them at the magician on the opposite side. Maybe the attacker was too weak, and Yuji's cursed bricks directly solved the attacker. Died. I also want to ask for information about Hikari Hiromi. Yuji Itadori was very surprised. His opponent's strength was not even that of a second-level sorcerer. It was hard to imagine why he dared to enter the Tokyo barrier to participate in the death migration, and there were swimmers with the strength of special-level sorcerers in the barrier. And it was estimated that there was definitely more than one person. These people just wanted to try their luck. What did you do to my woman? Where is she? Suddenly, a man with a propeller on his head appeared above Yuji Itadori's head. He flew in the air and said to Yuji Itadori. It can be seen that the other person's face was very angry. Itadori had angered him. Sorry, the woman you are talking about may be dead. She attacked me first. Upon hearing this, the propeller sorcerer glared at Yuji Itadori with his eyes wide open. Very good, in that case you may as well die. Seeing the other party's look, it was obviously impossible to negotiate. Be prepared for battle and be ready to meet the opponent's attack at any time. Yuji Itadori has a good talent and can make calm judgments no matter what kind of opponent he meets. Just like the sorcerer in front of him, his technique can turn his hair into propellers. for himself to fly, and the sharpness of his hair is enough to match that of a weapon. The man's only means of attack is a propeller, which is simple and single. If you want to kill the swimmer and get points, you only need to lure the opponent downstairs, which is Yuji Itadori's home court. Jumping from the 5th floor, Yuji Itadori entered the small room, which is the best place for Yuji Itadori to counterattack. You can't escape. Come out obediently and maybe I can give you a quick death. Seeing this, Yuji Itadori did not respond to the other party. The opponent's weakness was already obvious. The propeller sorcerer strengthened his spell power, and the speed of the propeller above his head increased. It's coming. Everything was within the calculation of Itadori. When Itadori defeated the airplane girl with one move just now, he had a rough judgment. Although the attack power and power are very strong, the corresponding body is very fragile. The kind of body strength that will die if touched. No matter what, the head is the vital point after all. Itadori only needs to be strong, and the rest will be left to miracles. Itadori Yuji condensed the magic power in his hand and hit the propeller sorcerer's head fiercely. So hard. Is this guy's head made of iron? He looked at the propeller sorcerer with surprise. The other party's head was bleeding. There was nothing wrong with him. He just had a little skin scraped by his fist. I admit I underestimated you. Do you think I have no backup plan? You have lost this battle. Tiger Stick did not give the opponent a chance to use his trump card, and kicked him in the stomach. The next moment, the propeller sorcerer fainted on the ground, his body twitching continuously. Another sorcerer who had no strength but insisted on showing off. It seems that most of the swimmers in the death migration are second-level sorcerers. There are almost no sorcerers of the same level as Liu Xianyi and Higurashi Quanjian. Special grade sorcerers are very rare, both in the past and now. Even if many old monsters are reborn, most of them are only at the level of first-grade sorcerers, and some maybe even weaker. Tiger Stick, do you want to find out the situation? I know. A man came over and said to Yuzhong, expressing his willingness to share information. Do you still remember me? Yuji was confused. He had never seen the yellow-haired man in front of him, but the other party's tone sounded like he knew him. And he had no intention of killing him. He just wanted to get close to Yuji Itadori. In layman's terms, the yellow-haired man knew Yuji unilaterally, and Yuji did not know the yellow-haired man. Tiger of the West. What an embarrassing name. Itadori Yuji didn't seem to want to admit this name, and no one knew who spread it. Feng Wuxia walked out from behind the yellow-haired man. He had actually arrived at the death migration not long ago. Although the few of them had separated at the Polytechnic Institute, the timeline was not much different. Long time no see, Tiger Stick. I have already figured out Fushiguro Megumi's location. Seeing Feng Wuxia coming, Yuji Itadori felt much more relieved. Feng Wuxia had collected a lot of intelligence during this period, and of course he was not idle. Many swimmers who had troubled him were killed instantly. Today is the 12th day of the death migration. Has it been so long? Feng Wuxia nodded. Yuji Itadori and Megumi Fushiguro were swimmers who joined in the middle. Naturally, they didn't know the time inside the barrier, but the swimmers who were inside the barrier on the first day knew exactly what day it was today. Feng Wuxia, do you have any clues about Rikuken Quanjian? Unfortunately, no. Feng Wuxia was speechless. He didn't know that Jerk knew that he could teleport and added a rule on purpose. He actually limited his speed in the barrier. He had to find a chance to add a rule, thus colliding with the old rule. Tiger Stick, my speed is restricted now. I can't find it by myself. Someone must have known Feng Wuxia's ability in advance, so they added this rule. The situation is very bad now. The sorcerers in the past loved to fight, and modern sorcerers have also been influenced by this. They all entered the fighting state, and the Sukuna in your body is a time bomb. Feng Wuxia knew very well that the Sukuna in Yuji's body was actually looking for an opportunity. A good opportunity to take over Fushiguro Megumi's body. Let me introduce myself. Higurashi Hiromi is in the Ikebukuro area. The three of them walked on the empty street, with no one around. On the other side, Fushiguro Megumi subdued Rimi, who also said that she knew where Higurashi Hiromi was. Fushiguro Megumi saw that Rimi was still useful, so she didn't kill her. If she could lead him to find Higurashi Hiromi, it would not be impossible to let her go. In Shinjuku, As far as I know, Hiromi is in Shinjuku. The places mentioned by Ganjing and Lee Mei are completely different. Fushiguro Megumi is smart and doesn't completely believe Lee Mei's words. Itadori Yujin is different. He is completely led by the other party. Feng Wuxia put on an attitude of watching the show. It would be interesting if the other party deliberately set a trap. Such a huge death migratory. No one can fight against me, it feels very boring. Tiger Stick, follow him. Let's go to Ikebukuro first, it won't hurt anyway. In this place of intrigue and deception, it seems that no one can be trusted. Fushiguro Megumi followed Rimi towards Shinjuku. If you plan to go to Shinjuku, I suggest you take a different route. The resources around here are relatively abundant, and there must be many swimmers ambushing near Shinjuku in advance. Lee Mei was not worried at all. She had walked this road more than once, and there was her base nearby. Seeing her, Fushiguro Megumi didn't say much. As long as they didn't encounter those old monsters, most swimmers were not strong. Ikebukuro was not far from Yuji Itadori's location, so he jogged all the way and soon arrived at the place in Ganjinko. This is it. Higurashi Hiromi is inside, let's go in quickly. Yuji Itadori has a big heart, and he walked in as soon as Ganjing said that. Even if Feng Wuxia stopped Yuji Itadori, he had already swung his arms and was ready to go in, but who knew that he was stopped? Tiger Stick, you have a really big heart. Higurashi Kanmi is at least a first-level player, aren't you afraid of getting beaten if you just walk in like this? Yuji Itadori said nonchalantly, aren't you here? Besides, we really need his help. Without further ado, Tiger Stick rushed towards the direction of the Grand Theater. Ganjing beside him was speechless. Has Tiger Stick always been like this? He looks so stupid. Ganjing's face was not very good, and he was saying a bunch of inaudible words. Don't do this anymore, don't do this anymore. I'm sorry, Yuji, please forgive me. Seeing that Ganjing was in a bad state, Feng Wuxia did not expose him, but followed behind Yuji. Unknown dangers are the most interesting, so why not enjoy them? What a big theater. I've never seen one before when I came to Ikebukuro. Wow, it's a doll, a really big doll. Itadori ran in and hugged the oversized doll, rubbing against it. Feng Wuxia pulled up Itadori Yujin. Didn't he have some important business to deal with? He could play with him as he pleased after that was done. Let's go and see Hiromi first. If you like dolls, I can take them away for you later. Thank you, Feng Wuxia. After searching the entire first floor of the theater, no signs of life were found. Feng Wuxia led Yuji Itadori to the second floor and pushed open the old wooden door. Hiromi was lying leisurely in the bathtub, but the scene was very strange. He was wearing a suit and lying in a bathtub full of water. Itadori successfully met Hiromi, which meant that Fushiguro Megumi, who was going to Shinjuku, was deceived. Fushiguro Megumi followed Rimi into the base, and he realized that he had been deceived by Rimi. The man in front of him was not Hiromi at all, but an invoice man who looked like a shemale. After discovering that he had been deceived, Fushiguro Megumi looked at Rimi behind him with murderous eyes. As if he was going to tear him to pieces the next moment. Don't look at me, I don't want to do this. By the way, I want to remind you that Mr. Raiji is super strong. Fushiguro Megumi is too lazy to bother with them. Anyone who interferes with his sister's rescue will be treated as an enemy. Summon the Jade Dog, and the Shikigami will be ready to attack the enemy at any time after receiving the order. You are very good, boy. Would you consider joining us? Raiji seemed to have taken a fancy to Fushiguro Megumi and invited him to join their organization. As for you, do you really understand the death and annihilation migration? Fushiguro Wei was stunned. They were about to fight in the last second, but now he was asked if he understood the death and annihilation migration. Tianyuan had already explained it, so he understood the general situation. It's a ritual. Teleporting humans and turning them into non-human objects is like a cursed spirit. Raiji interrupted Fushiguro Megumi. Then he looked at Fushiguro Megumi speechlessly. Does this kid really not understand? You're just saying it superficially. The death migration has several purposes. There is a reason for this judgment. Suppose there are 1,000 swimmers and there are 10 Tokyo barriers. That is to say, on average, there are about 100 people in each barrier. But there are strong people like Lu Ziyan and Rish, and the number of people they eliminated has long exceeded 60. There will be strong people in each barrier, although not as strong as these two. That is to say, in the early stage of the death migration, those who stay are basically strong. When the swimmers of the death migration are almost dead, the rope will drop a super bomb to end the game. Hiromi, let's talk, shall we? Hiromi in the bathtub stretched out his hand to block Yuji Itadori. I'm a lawyer, you have to pay to chat with me. Do you want to continue? Taijuji said of course, they need the points of Hikari Kwanmi. This is very helpful for the people in the high school to add rules, so Hikari Kwanmi is an indispensable part. We want to end the death migration. To put it bluntly, it is a violation of the rules. There is no need for swimmers to kill each other. Higurashi Kwanjian did not move, but said, you said it well, but I refuse. I saw another possibility from the death migration. Seeing that communication had no effect, Yuji Itadori planned to speak with his fists. But he underestimated Hiromi's strength, and Feng Wuxia next to him began to yawn. After talking for so long, they finally had to fight. Hiromi walked out of the bathtub. He had only been a sorcerer for 12 days. But he could already expand his domain. Domain expansion, execution. When Yuji saw that the domain was about to be completed, he wanted to destroy it before it was completed. However, Yuji's right foot stopped in midair and could not move. Court prohibits violence. You and I are equal, including the man in armor. Feng Wuxia used chairs to make a small bed and lay on it, watching Yuji and Hikari Kwanjian arguing with each other. Yuji Itadori, suspected of visiting the arcade. Yuji Itadori was stunned. Is this a crime? Without further ado, Hikari Hiromi showed a file in his hand, which contained evidence of Yuji Itadori's crime. You have 3 options: confess, keep silent or deny. Yuji Itadori was not sure what the punishment would be. He did go to the arcade to play marbles when he was a child. He wanted to try what the consequences of lying were. I just went to the restroom in the arcade. Hiroshi took out the evidence of Yuji Itadori's crime from the file. The photo clearly showed Yuji Itadori playing pinball in front of the game machine. Yuji Itadori, guilty. The Shikigami behind Hiromi absorbed all of Yuji Itadori's cursed energy and could not condense it again. Hiromi's domain disappeared, and the 3 returned to the second floor of the original theater. The hammer in his hand also became super big, and Yuji hadn't reacted yet. The hammer hit him, and he couldn't defend himself because he couldn't condense cursed energy. This hammer can change size, disappear and change position at will. Hiromi was very surprised, as Yuji's physical strength was beyond his expectation. As a lawyer, Hiromi was extremely outstanding, and his greatest shining point was that he could expand his domain and his strength was close to the special grade after only being a sorcerer for 12 days. He was a more talented and gifted sorcerer than Yuji and Megumi Fushiguro. Hiromi's movements were very skillful, as if he had become a sorcerer a long time ago. The hammer in his hand was like his third hand, switching between his left and right hands at will and constantly appearing and disappearing. Yuji Itadori had no way of predicting his next move. Hiromi had already comprehended the basics of barrier techniques and was reversing barrier techniques while his own technique had a domain attached to it. He mastered the trick of strengthening techniques through cursed power. The penalty of confiscation means that you cannot use the spell temporarily. But you don't have any spells, so the default penalty is that you can't use cursed energy. What? Higurashi Hiromi couldn't understand the most was why Yuji Itadori had no cursed energy at all, but he could still fight him on equal terms. After all, Yuji Itadori was relying on his physical strength to fight against Higurashi Hiromi's spells. He quickly came to the conclusion that Yuji Itadori was born without any spells, so he relied on his physical strength to fight against him. Change to another sorcerer. If he loses the technique, his own control over his cursed power will also be severely distorted. Higurashi Hiromi said, holding a hammer and staring at Yuji Itadori. Can I understand that you are praising me? Yuji Itadori wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth, stretched his muscles and prepared to face Hikari Hiromi's attack again. Next, we must attack Yuji Itadori with all our strength. I'm afraid his body is not as simple as being tough. Higurashi Hiromi realized that something was wrong. If he let his guard down, he might end up in trouble. Higurashi Hiromi chose to increase the distance of the hammer and keep a certain distance from Itadori Yuji. This would continuously consume Itadori Yuji's physical strength, gradually reveal his opponent's flaws, and then defeat Itadori Yuji in one fell swoop. Itadori Yuji wanted to eliminate Higurashi Hiromi, and he also knew where his advantages lay. Ignoring the attack of the hammer, he rushed towards Higurashi Hiromi, trying to get close to Higurashi Hiromi at all costs. Itadori Yuji grabbed the hammer, but Higurashi Hiromi was no pushover. The hammer in his hand disappeared, and then he retreated to a safe distance in 2 or 3 moves. He distanced me again. It's so troublesome, what should I do? Yuji Itadori began to get annoyed, looking at the bathtub where Hikari Hiromi had been before. He lifted the bathtub and smashed it towards where Hikari Hiromi was. Hikari Hiromi broke the bathtub with one punch, giving himself a chance to escape. The water in the bathtub and the fragments of the bathtub blocked Yuji Itadori's sight. Then the hammer that had disappeared reappeared in Hikari Hiromi's hand and hit Yuji Itadori's arm. That's amazing. You are the most resistant sorcerer I have ever seen. Higurashi Hiromi's dull expression finally changed a little bit. Itadori Yujin was like a tumbler. Even if you hurt him, he would adjust his state the next moment. How long will the punishment last? Yuji Itadori asked Hiromi tentatively. He couldn't gather his cursed energy, so it was hard for him to beat Hiromi. Tiger stick, each technique has a corresponding weakness. His punishment must have some disadvantages. Feng Wuxia, who was watching the show in the audience, said to Yuji Itadori. Yuji Itadori forced himself to calm down and think about what the disadvantages were. Trial, that's right, it's judgment. This is a technique called judgment, and Yuji Itadori thought of a way to break the deadlock. Japanese car-wide C. I refuse to plead guilty. That's right, this is the loophole in the field of Japanese car-wide view. As long as Yuji Itadori refuses to plead guilty, the court will be retried. The upper limit of refusing to plead guilty is twice, and the judge can never resist the defendant's request for a retrial. This gave Yuji Itadori a chance to breathe. Yuji Itadori, I admit you are very smart. But you seem to have forgotten. You have other crimes to judge. The court is in session. Defendant, Yuji Itadori. Suspected of killing a large number of civilians in Shibuya. After hearing this, Yuji Itadori was stunned and stood there in silence. When Hiromi took out the evidence of Yuji Itadori's crime, Yuji Itadori had no expression on his face, and then said, Yes, I killed him. I will not escape, nor will I shirk my responsibility. This is the punishment I deserve. Hiromi Hiroshi was very disappointed. He didn't understand why Yuji Itadori pleaded guilty. Even if Yuji Itadori pleaded guilty, didn't the defendant need to explain himself? Yuji Itadori, you disappoint me so much. Yuji Itadori, guilty. Confiscation. Sentenced to death. The Shikigami behind Hiromi looked at Yuji Itadori with a ferocious face, and the oversized hammer appeared in Hiromi's hand again. This was not a hammer he summoned actively, but it appeared automatically after he was found guilty. Now it was Hiromi's turn to be entangled. He had evidence in his hands, so he knew whether Yuji Itadori killed a large number of civilians in Shibuya. Now Yuji Itadori pleaded guilty, and the trial began early. The executioners soared. Yuji Itadori, you shouldn't have pleaded guilty. The trial was over, and Yuji Itadori lost his cursed power again. Since Yuji Itadori took the initiative to plead guilty, he could not return to the court. The loophole just now was no longer useful. Never mind, help him. I thought he could solve it himself. Feng Wuxia stood up. He finally got a break, but then Yuji Itadori did this. Wouldn't it be fine if he just gave a brief explanation? It seemed that the knot in Yuji Itadori's heart had never been untied. The person who tied the bell must be the one to untie it. Perhaps only if he killed Sukuna with his own hands could he untie all the pain in his heart. Bang! The face of the Shikigami behind Higurashi Hiromi sank, as if it was hit by an irresistible force. Feng Wuxia walked towards Higurashi Hiromi, and began to exert force with his hands, tearing the Shikigami apart in front of Higurashi Hiromi. Your Shikigami is very weak. I can't muster the energy at all. How dare you? Who told you to destroy the court trial without permission? Feng Wuxia, guilty. Kill on the spot. Feng Wuxia heard the inexplicable voice and felt that Hikari Hiromi's field was still very interesting. It's okay to play with Hikari. Itadori Yuji still stood there with a dull look on his face, as if he hoped that Hikari Hiromi would judge him. Deprive of the cursed power. Feng Wuxia, your crime does not deserve death. Just be a good listener and I will revoke your judgment. Feng Wuxia didn't care. The judgment he mentioned was weak anyway. Even if they sentenced him to death, it was just because they couldn't beat Hikari Kwanmi. And depriving him of his cursed power would have no effect on him. Chapter 71. Come on, let me see how powerful your spell is. Higurashi Hiromi didn't step forward immediately. He realized that Feng Wuxia was able to break into the domain and was not affected at all, which showed that this person was not simple. He was stronger than any sorcerer he had met before, especially his eyes, which gave people a strong sense of oppression. The executioner's sword appeared in his hand again, but this time there were two. One to judge Feng Wuxia, and the other to judge Yuji Itadori. I'm sorry, although I know you are innocent. But this is a judgment, I will never allow anyone else to blaspheme. The executioner's sword merged into one and became the same size as Hikari Kuromi. The huge sword seemed to have no weight in his hand, and the light in Hikari Kuromi's hand became stronger and stronger. Hikari Kuromi threw a large number of seats at Feng Wuxia, but Feng Wuxia dodged them all without exception. Of course, this was just Hikari Kuromi's plan to confuse Feng Wuxia. The scene in front of him was chaotic, mixed with a lot of debris. Hikari Kuromi took advantage of the obstacles to successfully approach Feng Wuxia. The executioner's sword that had just disappeared appeared again, threw out the coat to try to disrupt the other party's thoughts, and then stabbed Feng Wuxia's abdomen. Hikari Kuromi thought well, but he ignored Feng Wuxia's strength. It only took 2 fingers to catch Hikari Kuromi's sword. Hikari Kuromi, who noticed something was wrong, shrank the sword as soon as possible. He just felt that if he was a second slower, the sword in his hand would definitely break. I'm curious, you have such a powerful force, why do you still come to me? His Kar Kwanjian didn't have a chance to breathe, and attacked Feng Wuxia again. He knew that it was basically impossible to defeat an opponent of this level. Do you think adults will interfere when children fight with each other? Or have you ever seen an adult get angry with a child? In Feng Wuxia's eyes, except for those few people, all the swimmers in the Tokyo barrier were children. Feng Wuxia's words left Hikari Kwanjian speechless. The man in front of him was too strong. His most proud technique could not hurt him at all, and in Feng Wuxia's eyes, he was like a jumping ant, just a little more active than other ants. Shut up, humans are weak and ugly. You don't understand what I've been through. It's fine if Yuji Itadori pleads guilty, but you don't even plan to explain. As long as you open your mouth to defend yourself, you will not be guilty at all. Higurashi Hiromi was confused. His long-held philosophy was broken. As long as Itadori Yuji defended himself, he would not be guilty. As long as Feng Wuxia defended himself, he would not be guilty either. Maybe Higurashi Hiromi was wrong. One reason was that he accepted the fact in his heart and thought that Sukuna was himself, and he should bear the responsibility for the murder. But the reason why Feng Wuxia didn't speak was simply that he was too strong. Even if he didn't defend himself, no one could beat him. The judgment he mentioned was not worth mentioning in Feng Wuxia's eyes. Is the judgment you speak of really correct? Or do you think the ugly guy behind you is guilty if he says he is guilty? Higurashi Hiromi glanced at the Shikigami lying on the ground. He seemed to have changed a lot at this moment. His eyes no longer had the immaturity of his youth, and his eyes became more determined. His psychological defense line has collapsed. As long as Higurashi Hiromi can get through it, he will become stronger. Tiger Stick, don't just stand there like an idiot. The next trial is about to begin. Seeing what the other party wanted to do, Feng Wuxia pulled up Yuji Itadori, who did not understand what Feng Wuxia meant. Higurashi Hiromi stood up, repaired the Shikigami, and said something they did not expect. I defend Yuji Itadori. I request a second trial. The trial begins. Restore Yuji Itadori's cursed power. Please ask the defendant to produce strong evidence to prove his innocence. There is no plaintiff at this moment, only the lawyer who is helping Yuji Itadori. With a piece of evidence about Yuji Itadori in his hand, Yuji Itadori has actually won. From the moment his psychological defense line collapsed, Hiromi Hiroshi had already lost. This evidence is all the evidence about Yuji Itadori. Yuji Itadori did not kill anyone. Higurashi Hiromi's words were not only for himself, but also for Yuji Itadori, who had a dull look in his eyes. The one who killed people in the Shibuya area was not Yuji Itadori, but the Sukuna in his body. Sukuna's power does not belong to Yuji Itadori, so the first trial result is invalid. Higurashi Hiromi doesn't understand why Yuji Itadori pleads guilty. He can't judge an innocent person. So he can't judge the kind Yuji Itadori. Yuji Itadori, while Sukuna was taking over his body and was unconscious. I declare that Yuji Itadori is not guilty. You didn't have self-control at the time, you didn't voluntarily give up control of your body. You are innocent, you are innocent. Yuji Itadori grabbed Hiromi's shoulders. He was very reluctant to accept the fact that Sukuna killed someone. It was because of Yuji Itadori's weakness that this tragic ending occurred. If he could have defeated Shoso at that time, maybe the result would have been different. Of course, Yuji Itadori did not blame Shoso. He thought it was all his fault. It was all because of him. No, I'm too weak. If I were stronger, no one would die, and Sukuna would not take my body. Even though Hiromi declared him not guilty, Yuji Itadori still believed in his heart that he was guilty. Tiger Stick, there are many people in this world who are as weak as you. You should know that there are not many people like you. Higurashi Kwanjian put on his coat, and the domain was lifted. The few people returned to the second floor of the original theater. The cursed power returned to Yuji's body, and Feng Wuxia's mind was not here. I feel like there's trouble with Fushiguro Megumi. You guys talk first, I have something to do. If you want to find me, just follow the cursed power. Before leaving, Feng Wuxia handed Yuji Itadori a small stone with his own cursed power on it. To find me, just follow the guidance of the cursed power. I'll give you 100 points. Hisashi Kwanjian gave the 100 points in his hand to Yuji Itadori. He has been redeemed. The points in his hand have become dispensable. The world needs more people like Yuji Itadori. So he plans to help Yuji Itadori. Xiao Jin, I added a rule. Swimmers can transfer points to each other. Approve. Successfully added new rules. Tiger Stick, I give you my 1 point. This way my points have changed, and so have your points. You will not be deprived of the technique within 19 days, so live well, young man. After doing everything, Hiromi planned to leave the theater alone. Yuji Itadori stepped forward to stop Hiromi, wanting Hiromi to join the high-level team to solve the problem of the death and extinction migratory. No, I killed many innocent people. The swimmer has a prosecutor and a judge. When I get out, I'll turn myself in. I will also think carefully about what to do in the next life. Tiger Stick, see you later. Do you know Fushiguro Megumi? Tokyo Barrier eliminated nearly 70% of the sorcerers in the first parachuting session. Dispersing people is one of them, but promoting the second awakening of the sorcerer is the purpose this time. This game is not as simple as it looks. After listening to Raiji's words, Fushiguro Megumi frowned. He knew that what he said made sense. Moreover, the death migration has only been open for 12 days, and he has obtained so much information and deduced a lot of alternative information. If the death migration really needs swimmers, it will not use such cruel means. In theory, more swimmers will be allowed to participate in the competition, but the way the game works is to eliminate magicians who have no self-protection ability at the beginning. The most basic condition for participating in the game is to land safely from a height of several hundred meters. What do you mean by bomb? And why do you know about the noose? Fushiguro Megumi's vigilance towards Raiji has increased to a higher level. The other party seems to want to win over Fushiguro Megumi. His real purpose is just to win him over. When Fushiguro Megumi is no longer useful, he will definitely abandon him without hesitation. Don't you know yet? In the current situation, whoever gets more points first will have an absolute advantage. Join us, Fushiguro Megumi. Rimi also echoed Raiji and said, Fushiguro Megumi, Master Raiji is very strong. Think about it carefully. With your ability, you might be able to become a senior member of the organization. Fushiguro Megumi turned a deaf ear to what Rimi said. Rimi had already deceived her once. This time, she would definitely not believe Rimi's words. Fushiguro Megumi pointed at Rimi behind her, with no expression on her face, and said without hesitation. First of all, I don't think Limei is that strong. At best, she is just an errand boy. I think you know this very well. After you have used her, you will definitely turn her into points. Give me your points and I will consider joining you. Zero no longer hides his intention. Since soft tactics don't work, he will use hard tactics. The negotiation between the two men breaks down completely. Fushiguro Megumi, this will be the most wrong decision you have ever made. A clawed man appeared behind Fushiguro Megumi. This was the trap set by Raiji in advance. As long as Fushiguro Megumi refused to join the organization, the clawed man would be released to kill Fushiguro Megumi and gain the opponent's points. From Xiao Jin's mouth, I learned that the death migration has added that the points between swimmers can be transferred to each other. So just kill Fushiguro Megumi, and don't worry about who killed him, the points will be transferred in a while. I know I can't trust you. Is this the attitude you use when negotiating with someone? The nails on the claw man's hands turned into sharp claws, wanting to tear Fushiguro Megumi into pieces in an instant. Raiji, who was standing by and watching the show, said with a hint of provocation. It's just a backhand. You have already rejected me, so don't blame me for being cruel. When the claws were about to touch Fushiguro Megumi disappeared in front of them. Before Ling Shi and the claw man could react, Fushiguro Megumi had already appeared behind them. Just now, Fushiguro Megumi used a spell to hide in the claw man's shadow, creating the illusion of a sudden disappearance. Grabbing the claw man with both hands, Fushiguro Megumi jumped out from underground the next moment. Jade Dog, catch that demon. Jade Dog received the order from Fushiguro Megumi to block Raiji's way, while Fushiguro Megumi focused on dealing with the claw man. The enemy is a bit tricky and difficult to deal with in a short time. Hello, what do you want to do? Are we going to fight to the death? Fushiguro Megumi smashed the window on his left hand with one punch and threw the claw man in his hand out. It was not high here, but the claw man was an ordinary sorcerer. Even if he didn't die, he could still cause some minor injuries. Nu, I leave it to you. The Shikigami Nu suddenly appeared on the third floor. The claw man who had just landed had not yet adjusted his state. He saw the Shikigami rushing towards him at the fastest speed, and then a big hole appeared in the ground. The claw man was seriously injured and lay in the hole unable to move. Although he wanted to escape, the electric current brought by the Shikigami paralyzed his whole body. At this point, the claw man, Rei's helper, lost his combat effectiveness, and now he only needed to concentrate on dealing with Rei. Rimi beside him didn't need to be treated as a human being. That guy had no combat effectiveness at all, and Fushiguro Megumi could kill Rimi in seconds. Did he summon that Shikigami in advance? Could it be that he has been hiding somewhere waiting for Fushiguro Megumi's order? The more Raiji thought about it, the scarier it became. Fushiguro Megumi's mind was too meticulous, unlike a young man. Fushiguro Megumi couldn't control his murderous intent and angrily said to Reimei upstairs. Get out of here quickly, don't let me see your dirty face again. This time, Rimi was really scared by Fushiguro Megumi's appearance, and she might really die here. But Rimi did not run away, and Raiji was still beside her. If Rimi ran away, Raiji might be the first to kill her. Rimi was just a bait, so Raiji didn't kill her and let her do things for him. At this moment, Raiji successfully controlled the Jade Dog, and Fushiguro Megumi did not expect that the Jade Dog could not defeat Raiji. You want my points before you hold back? Or are the new rules designed to make you avoid killing as much as possible? Zei Shi asked himself. If Fushiguro Megumi didn't show his true strength, it would be impossible for him to defeat him. Fushiguro Megumi really thought so. He didn't want to kill people for no reason. Some sorcerers were forced to participate in the death migration, but some sorcerers took the initiative to participate and enjoyed the battle. Eyeball, how many helpers do you have? Fushiguro Megumi noticed an eyeball appearing in the shadows, and when he was in doubt, the eyeball suddenly exploded. Can you please pay attention? Blow me up to death. Ling Shi cursed behind the door. He obviously didn't care about his own life or death. On the rooftop of the battle building, Huang Luge used his magic to extract his own organs and explode them. He had 35 points in his hand. He relied on his magic to sneak attack many sorcerers and gain their points. Ling Shi, you are so miserable. I'm here to help you. Huang Luge threw out 2 invoices with some gasoline on them. Fushiguro Megumi thought it was another strange technique and subconsciously opened his hands to block it. But after a few seconds, nothing happened. This was just a trick of Huang Luge to cover up his mistake. You fell into the trap, little brat. After saying that, Huang Luge threw out 3 teeth, and Fushiguro Megumi realized that he had just fallen into the trap. The 3 teeth came in front of Fushiguro Megumi, and a violent explosion occurred in the next second. Without considering the feelings of Lingxi and Limai, the dark smoke reached the sky. Feng Wuxia, who was far away, also noticed the explosion and ran towards the explosion site. Fushiguro, you've made quite a fuss. Feng Wuxia knew that Fushiguro Megumi was probably at the location of the explosion, so he sped up and flew towards Fushiguro Megumi's location. You're doing this again. Didn't I tell you I'm still here? Are you blind? Zeishi walked out of the room. Fortunately, he ran fast, otherwise he would have been killed by the boy Huang Su. He thought that the explosion of Huang Su had killed Fushiguro Megumi, but who would have thought that Fushiguro Megumi reacted very quickly. At the moment when Huang Su's teeth exploded, he took down the door next to him to block the impact of the explosion, and at the same time protected Li Mei, who fell to the ground. Because of this, Fushiguro Megumi, who was resisting the explosion, had to take care of Li Mei, which consumed a lot of his physical strength. Did you see it clearly? They don't care about you at all, you are just their pawn. You can die anytime you want after you are no longer useful. Fushiguro Megumi was still trying to persuade him, but Rimi, who was lying on the ground, had a ferocious expression on her face, and seemed to not believe what she was seeing. She shouted like a madman. I don't believe it. Mr. Raiji said he would protect me. Seeing that the other party was still pestering her, Fushiguro Megumi didn't want to pay attention to her. This woman was completely crazy and her last bit of rationality was gone. The man with a ponytail and claws appeared, and the explosion of Wangluja bought him a chance to breathe. The scene formed a 4-on-1 situation. Fushiguro Megumi didn't have much physical strength left, and there was almost no chance of winning. Full of elephants, he's flying. The claw man was caught off guard and wondered why he was injured again. Fushiguro Megumi was not stupid, and knew that among the few people, Li Mei had gone crazy, and the weakest one was the claw man. The body of the full elephant crashed through the building, and countless bricks flew out with the claw man. Fushiguro Megumi found the right opportunity, stepped on the back of the full elephant and picked up the bricks. He smashed the back of the claw man's head heavily. Fushiguro Megumi did not stop, even though the opponent had lost his ability to fight. He let him go just now, so don't blame Fushiguro Megumi if he wants to join the battlefield. He drew the big knife from his waist and cut off the claw man's neck. Fushiguro Megumi successfully killed the swimmer, but Xiao Jin did not show up to report Fushiguro Megumi's points. Want to expand your field? No, my curse power can't last too long. If I don't kill the 2 of them, I'll be in big trouble. While thinking, Huang Luge spat out a tooth from his mouth. A man appeared and blocked Huang Luge's tooth with his man, and the tooth exploded in his face. But he didn't seem to be hurt at all, and instead criticized Huang Luge and Ling Shi righteously. 2 against 1 is not fair at all. Your teeth are not sharp at all, they didn't hurt a single hair of mine. My name is Gao Yu, an artist and sorcerer, or a comedian. Fushiguro Megumi was unsure of this idiot comedian, but he didn't say much because Gao Yu had helped him just now. Never mind, I'll just trust you. Don't do anything tricky. Seeing a stranger appear on Fushiguro Megumi's side, Huang Luge wanted to know which side he was on. Are you asking me? Is it funny or not? My battle suit is modeled after the clothes of the hero who first taught me how to be funny. I swear on my own name that I will not let this be a dull moment. Ling Shi and Huang Lu felt that Gao Yu was about to attack, and quickly prepared their skills to meet Gao Yu's attack. Who knew that Gao Yu, this idiot, said something that none of the 3 of them expected. It's really a Wi-Fi with a crooked top beam and crooked bottom beam. The scene suddenly became silent, and Gao Yu lost his composure. He didn't understand why the others didn't laugh. Then he started to swear in front of them. What a rubbish audience. Did you have your smiles in your mother's womb? To be honest, I often meet such audiences. Gao Yu's appearance reminded Fushiguro Wei of Tudo. He was like a brother of his adoptive father and mother. His personality was exactly the same as Tudo's. But did you know that Gao Yu's technique was like a bug? He could turn people's funny imaginations into reality. This technique was completely comparable to Gojo Satoru, but he himself knew nothing about it. Gao Yu himself, however, knew nothing about his powerful technique. Start making a battle plan. The one wearing armor, let's discuss the plan together. Fushiguro Wei turned around and saw Feng Wuxia standing next to him. It seems that you have been watching the show just now. Cotinus Kagegria can turn its organs into bombs. And Cotinus Kagegria can use the reverse technique to heal organs. That means he can create a continuous stream of explosions. Feng Wuxia started to analyze the technique of Cotinus Kagegria, and Fushiguro Wei began to face his opponent. He didn't expect that any swimmer could be so powerful. Only a few people can do the high-level reversal technique, which is a very difficult technique. No need to specify any plans. I will take care of the two of them. Fushiguro Megumi summoned Xiao Jin and found Hikari Hiromi to check his points. After confirming that Hikari Hiromi had spent 100 points, he said to Huanglu and Lei Shi. My goal has been achieved, so I'll leave first. Zeishi was very angry about this. You come and go as you please, and you treat his base as a teahouse. Besides, Fushiguro Megumi killed the Claw Man, and the Claw Man was his little brother, so he would not let Fushiguro Megumi go. He was bound to turn Fushiguro Megumi into a point. Is this another helper you found? Looks weak. Boom. What the hell? 0. Huang Luo stared at Ling Shi, who flew out in a daze. He hadn't reacted yet, and he didn't even see Ling Shi's afterimage. Feng Wuxia wiped his fist. Ling Shi's words just now made him very upset. He didn't expect that a mere trash would dare to mock him. This punch was a punishment for him. If Ling Shi was weaker, he would die in this blow. Oh, you are so strong. Where did you learn from? Gao Yu began to look Feng Wuxia up and down, and found that he was really different from other swimmers. The murderous intent emanated from his whole body, which was the result of Feng Wuxia's efforts to control. It's not good. Ling Shi, get up quickly. Don't leave your mess to me, I don't want to be thrown out like you. Huang Lu has already backed off in his heart. The person in front of him is not a swimmer, but more like a devil. The kind of devil who kills without blinking an eye. Don't play dead, give me a word. Even a squeak is fine. Looking at Ling Shi, who was completely unconscious with blood flowing from all his orifices, Huang Lu looked at the escape route. He had been in Tokyo Barrier for 12 days to participate in the death migration, and he had already figured out the general route to Shinjuku. As long as the other party couldn't fly, he still had a great chance of escaping. Oh, he's running away. Taste my millennium killing. Gao Yu quickly went behind Huang Lu and stabbed him fiercely. Huang Lu only felt a burst of sourness, and the expression on his face was out of his control. Fushiguro, do you know this fool? For the time being, you have helped me. I know you and I can say no. Feng Wuxia looked at the place where the ground collapsed, grabbed Fushiguro Hui's arm and said. You are so inefficient. Where is the enemy on the ground just now? Fushiguro Wei only then noticed that the Claw Man was not dead, as if Xiaojin did not show up to report the bonus points. He ignored this point and was eager to deal with other enemies, ignoring the Claw Man who was not completely dead. I should have done it more decisively. He survived even after his neck was slashed. He is really lucky. What's going on now? The Claw Man walked to Huang Lu's side. He had just seen it, and he knocked Ling Shi unconscious with one punch. The two of them had already made plans to escape. Ling Shi was really playing big this time, trying to lure a great god here. The banknotes in Ling Shi's hand were burned. Fortunately, he had a trick up his sleeve, otherwise he would have been killed by one punch. It hurts. What the hell is this kid? Just a moment ago, Ling Shi relied on the technique to bring his attributes to the peak state. But he barely managed to survive. He could clearly feel that his internal organs were about to be shattered, and several bones were broken. Fortunately, he did not die. You finally woke up. I thought you were dead. I was going to leave you behind and run away, luckily you didn't die. The Claw Man, Huang Lu and Ling Shi stood on the opposite side of Feng Wuxia. I just felt bored so I played with them. Fushiguro Megumi, have you ever seen the power of a special grade sorcerer? Fushiguro Megumi tried to recall, but it seemed that he had never seen a special grade sorcerer. Gojo Satoru rarely fights in front of Fushiguro Megumi. The last time Fang Wuxia fought against Shibusukuro, Fushiguro Megumi fainted. It is no exaggeration to say that he still does not have a general understanding of the special grade sorcerer. Honestly, I haven't seen it. At least I have never seen the true strength of a special stunt sorcerer. Fang Wuxia took out the Uchiha fan. It was night time, and the glowing purple eyes gave people a stronger sense of oppression. Ling Shi was not a modern sorcerer, so he didn't know Fang Wuxia's eyes. But he had a feeling that these eyes were definitely not as simple as they looked. You guys hold him back first. I'll find an opportunity to attack you, don't let them die. After telling the two, he ran behind him. The pressure on Huang Luge and the Clawman doubled. Ling Shi couldn't stand Fang Wuxia, and the two of them together couldn't beat Ling Shi. This was clearly to send them to their deaths. Katanas Kagegria, let's run. There's no way we can win. Nonsense, do you think I haven't thought about running away? I'm afraid that old guy Ling Shi will kill us before that. Huang Luge certainly thought about running away, but the risk of running away is too great. Even if Ling Shi didn't intend to kill the two of them, Fushiguro Megumi didn't intend to let them go. Katanas Kagegria, run. What does it mean? The building behind him collapsed under Fang Wuxia's punch, and the whole building collapsed, creating countless powders. Fortunately, Huang Luge knew how to use the reversal spell. As long as he was not shot in the head, he could use the reversal spell to repair the wound. Katanas Kagegria, you're on your own, I'm running away first. How can a human deal with this? The Claw Man had finally managed to fake his death and escape from Fushiguro Megumi. He couldn't even beat Fushiguro Megumi, let alone Fang Wuxia. Going up would be a dead end. He didn't know how to reverse the spell, and he guessed that he couldn't hold on for even a second. Do you think you can escape? Or do you think I don't exist? Fang Wuxia instantly appeared in front of the Claw Man and grabbed the Claw Man's neck with one hand. Fushiguro Wei was soft-hearted and careless. Xiao Jin didn't show up to report the points, and he didn't check whether the person was really dead. Let me go, I'll give you all the points I have. I can tell you more about the swimmers, bases. I know a lot of information. I can give you whatever you want. Fang Wuxia was very disdainful of the words of the Claw Man. The information of different barriers can be used to find people from the high school. As for the Claw Man, he was just a walking score. He would not let go of the score that came to his door. He twisted the Claw Man's neck with his right hand. In less than 10 seconds, the Claw Man died. Congratulations to the swimmer. Phoenix Wuxia killed the Claw Man. Get all the points of the opponent. Xiao Jin appeared to report Fang Wuxia's points, so that the swimmer can be completely killed. Fushiguro Megumi forgot this point, even though he personally cut the opponent's neck. However, it is not ruled out that the opponent is faking his death. As long as Xiao Jin does not appear, even if the opponent's body is gone, he is not dead. Ling Shi, didn't you say you would be back soon? It's been so long. If you don't come back, it will be my turn next. It's better to rely on yourself than on others. Huang Luge removed his body organs and then used the reversal technique to repair them. He threw the teeth in his hand to Wuxia. This time he removed more than a dozen teeth just to create the strongest explosion. Even if he couldn't kill him, he would at least injure the opponent. The power of his explosion could easily blow up a 3-story building. The power was absolutely beyond doubt. At this moment, he was close to a state of madness. Before the smoke had dissipated, he took out his eyeballs and threw them out. This time the explosion was even stronger, and the powerful aftermath almost made Fushiguro Megumi lose her footing. On the other hand, Gao Yu was absolutely sure that Huang Luge's technique was very interesting. Techniques that could make organs explode were still rare. If it could be used on the opponent, it would be absolutely unsolvable, making the opponent's organs explode. Even if the opponent was a special grade sorcerer, he might not be able to withstand it as long as he didn't know the reversal technique. 3 trucks crashed into the roadblocks and rushed towards Fang Wuxia and the others. Katanas Kagegria, hide quickly. I won't be responsible if I hit you to death. Ling Shi used a spell to control 3 large trucks, trying to hit Fushiguro Megumi and others. Huang Luge took the opportunity to exaggerate and throw insignificant organs onto the trucks, intending to cause an explosion and kill several people. You two come closer to me. There is still a lot of oil in the tank of the truck. If it really explodes, it will at least destroy several nearby buildings. Feng Wuxia opened Susanoo to protect Gao Yu and Fushiguro Megumi beside him. After the explosion, only the ruins of the building were left. Huang Luge and Ling Shi picked up the broken bricks on their bodies. Ling Shi was also seriously injured by the previous blow. Fortunately, Huang Luge only suffered some skin injuries, but his organs have not been repaired yet. It is impossible to continue the second explosion in a short time. Just when the two thought the plan was successful, a huge stone flew out from not far away on the opposite side. It almost killed the two of them. Ling Shi and Huang Luge, who realized something was wrong, planned to turn around and run. Feng Wuxia certainly would not give them a chance. He blew Huang Luge away with a fan. He couldn't stand up because of his damaged organs. Only Ling Shi was left standing there in a daze. Impossible, why didn't you die? These are 3 trucks, and the explosion destroyed the nearby buildings. Zaishi was very confused. He had been preparing for a long time just to cooperate with Huang Luge to take down Feng Wuxia in one fell swoop. But the other party did not suffer a single bit of damage. Even a first-level sorcerer would not be unscathed. Are you a special grade sorcerer? No wonder. Special grade sorcerers are rare. No matter which era, they represent the pinnacle of the sorcery world. Ling Shi could only lament his bad luck, as he happened to meet a modern-day special grade sorcerer. Do you have anything to say before you die? Ling Shi cleared his throat and said. I'm unlucky, but I also know the Tianyuan mentioned by Fushiguro Megumi before. As modern sorcerers, you should have seen Tianyuan, right? I suspect he is in collusion with Tianyuan. You can't believe what he says. I have finished what I want to say. Feng Wuxia stood in the ruins, opened his skeleton form and crushed Ling Shi to death. Ling Shi's eyes were gradually blurring out. As expected, as he had guessed, Ling Shi was not a modern sorcerer. From his performance just now and the Tianyuan he mentioned, he could guess that he was probably another old monster from hundreds of years ago. 0 deaths among swimmers. Swimmer Feng Wuxia gets all of Ling Shi's points. Ling Shi has 41 points, and when Feng Wuxia came in, many people ambushed him. He killed all those ambushing guys, so now he has a lot of points. Fushiguro, how many points do you have? Not a cent. Not a single point. Feng Wuxia was very confused, but after thinking about it, she understood. The Claw Man had miscalculated, and those points should have belonged to him. I'll give you some points. I happen to have a lot of points. Xiao Jin, I transfer 20 points to Fushiguro Megumi. Please confirm whether to transfer 20 points. Confirm. Points transferred successfully. Swimmer Fushiguro Megumi's current score, 20 points. Swimmer Feng Wuxia's current score, 50 points. There is another guy over there, what should we do? Fushiguro Wei looked at Feng Wuxia, but the next moment he was dumbfounded. Only one arm with cursed power was left in the place of Huang Lu, and the person was nowhere to be found. What a smart guy, he cut off one of his arms and added a spell to make us think he was still here. But I checked in advance, he doesn't have any extra points, so it would be useless to kill him. That's why I put him last. It doesn't matter if he runs away. The Tokyo barrier is so big, let him accumulate more points before killing him. Fushiguro Megumi's affairs have been resolved, and he has also met the super strong Gao Yu. Gao Yu has no sect, so he will follow Fushiguro Megumi for the time being. Tokyo barrier is just a small fight. Have you ever been to the Sendai barrier? Sendai barrier. Fushiguro Megumi was confused, and why was the Tokyo barrier only a small one? I haven't been there, so how strong are the enemies in the Shantai barrier? How strong? If I really want to talk about it, it's hard for Feng Wuxia to explain, but Yutsutsukoshi Yuta gave an example and it was easy to explain. Probably many swimmers can compete with Yuta Okatsu. Most of the enemies are of the strength of a first-level sorcerer. A second-level sorcerer will be killed instantly. Even weak sorcerers died in the Tokyo barrier, not to mention going to the Sendai barrier. The Sendai barrier at this time can only be described as extremely tragic. The Sendai barrier is occupied by the 4 heavenly kings. Dorub once suppressed the entire island's strength single-handedly during the chaos in the Sakura country. He has 2 Shikigami, which can turn the Shikigami's trajectory into his own domain. He currently has 91 points. Shi Lulong is the top player in the output of mantra in the Sendai barrier. He has a crew cut on his head, which symbolizes his extremely free heart. He is a very individual and powerful player. He currently has 77 points. Kurosaurus Hanxi was once a member of the Yuan Tang clan's assassination team. He is the captain of the Sun Moon Star team. He has a technique that can control the sky and the sky. He has currently obtained 70 points. Heimu Si is a special grade cursed spirit that looks like a cockroach. It is called the Big Cockroach. It is a special grade cursed spirit that can be controlled by the noose to remove the cursed spirit manipulation technique. The 4 heavenly kings of Shantai did not form an alliance, but formed an extremely subtle relationship, and they checked and balanced each other. Dorub, it's just so, and his strength is just like that. A huge knife mark appeared on Dalubu's body, and he looked at Yuta Otsutsu with fear. A gloomy boy with dead fish eyes walked out of the darkness, and he killed Dalubu, who had the highest score. He drew his sword handsomely, swung it, and put it away in one go. He looked at the corpse behind him with disdain, as if he had just done something insignificant. Yuta Otsutsu, the sorcerer who had the best chance to catch up with Gojo Satoru in the high school, after losing Rika and following the night parade of 100 demons. It took him only more than 3 months to return to being a special grade sorcerer. He proved to everyone that even if he lost Rika, he was still a qualified special grade sorcerer. The curse was lifted, and now Yuta Otsutsu, not Rika, was the strong one. Swimmer, Otsutsuki Yuta, kills Dorub. Otsutsuki Yuta easily gets 35 points, which is very easy for him. The huge Shikigami hovering in the back mountain disappears, and the other kings notice this. It is hard to imagine that Dorub, who has the highest score, died, and the cursed power disappeared in an instant. This means that Dorub was killed instantly, without even a chance to resist. Who is this Yuta Okatsu? I am not unfamiliar with his name. I have seen it many times on the list. Several other kings also noticed Yutsutsuki's name. His points were rising rapidly. Shi Lulong had a general understanding of Yutsutsuki Yuta's strength. At that time, Dalubu was not far from Shi Lulong. Just by feeling, Yutsutsuki Yuta could easily kill him. This Yuta Okatsu is very tricky. At least one-on-one, the 3 of us can't beat him. Shi Lulong said to Wu Lu Hengxi. Wu Lu Hengxi thought this was interesting. Every time a swimmer entered the Sendai barrier, they were all rubbish. Finally, a master came, so of course he had to meet him. Dalubu imprisoned many ordinary people. Yuta Otsutsuko found the base and released everyone. Keep going north and you will be able to exit the barrier. Every ordinary person has one chance to enter and exit the barrier. This is the rule set at the beginning of the game. At this time, the insect swarm came and an ordinary person was caught in it. Otsukatsuki Yuta observed that each insect was strengthened with magical power, and it was obvious that they came prepared. They must be targeting him. Thinking of the Dalubu who was killed just now, it was probably their helper who came. Rika, stop the insect swarm. A hideous-looking Shikigami descended from the sky and landed right on the bridge. Rika smashed the bridge with both hands, blocking the insect swarm's path and temporarily cutting off the ordinary people from the battlefield. The insect swarm, without a target, turned to attack Yuta Otsutsuki. Yuta Otsutsuki swung his sword, and suddenly cursed power gushed out like a flood. It seemed that Yuta Otsutsuki's cursed power was bottomless and he could release a lot of cursed power at once. All the insect swarms disappeared in an instant, and Yuta Otsutsuki put away his sword. He almost lost his strength. It would be bad if he hurt the ordinary people running away in front. This knife shocked Ishiryu Ryu and Urusei Hengxi who were observing secretly. The output is quite average, but what's the matter with the total amount of cursed energy? Shi Lulong stood on the roof, watching Yuta Okatsu's every move. He didn't act rashly, as he was afraid that Yuta Okatsu was just pretending. The previous blow was just to deal with them, and he didn't have a rough idea of Yuta Okatsu's strength. Kurusu Hengxi, his cursed power is bottomless, and the Shikigami he summons are also very powerful. It was definitely not a coincidence that he was able to kill Dorob. Uruheiji also saw this point. Heimusi didn't care about that and appeared directly in front of Yuta Otsutsu. He was just a cursed spirit, killing was his nature. When he saw Yuta Otsutsu appear, his first reaction was to kill Yuta Otsutsu. Seeing Heimusi suddenly appear, Yuta Otsutsu calmly summoned Xiao Jin. Xiao Jin, is this cockroach also a swimmer? Yes, cursed spirits are also swimmers. By the way, a reminder that Heimusi is much stronger than Dorob. When Heimusi faced Dorob and Likdawala, it determined that it was at a disadvantage in terms of compatibility. It used Dorob's life and death in the barrier as a hibernation condition to cause it to fall into a deep sleep. Heimusi has an unlimited appetite and can reproduce parthenogenetically by eating. After waking up, he immediately entered the eating state. Faced with Yuta Otsutsukoda who wanted to stop him from eating, Heimusi's instinct told him that he would eat whoever tried to stop him from eating. The resources inside the barrier are limited, so Yuta Otsutsukoda plans to add a rule that allows free entry and exit of the barrier. There is actually a cursed swimmer. It seems that I have little experience. There should be many strange swimmers in the barrier. There are still many ordinary people inside the barrier. Swimmers like Delubu and Heimusi, who have a large attack range and like to kill, must not be allowed to leave the barrier. The best way is to let them die here and turn them into points to add new rules. There must be similar swimmers in other barriers, and they must be eliminated. However, the scattered people in the high school cannot contact each other, so a new rule must be created to allow them to contact each other. Yuta Otsutsukoshi felt a headache just thinking about it. The previous plan of several people at Tianyuan, plus the need to enter and exit the barrier, have a way to contact. In total, 4 new rules need to be added, which is 400 points. If you want such a huge amount of points, you must continue to gain points. News. I can't let the teacher experience the feeling of killing a close friend again. I will kill Nose, and I will get 400 points by myself. Heimushi took out the cursed tool, the rotten sword. The ugly and weird blade made Yuta Otsutsuki feel a little nauseous. The knife was covered with eyes, just like this cockroach cursed spirit. Heimushi had no intelligence and could only attack Yuta Otsutsuki based on his fighting instinct. The fierce blade slashed fiercely at Yuta Otsutsuki's vitals. The seemingly fast speed was not worth mentioning in Yuta Otsutsuki's eyes. Yuta Otsutsuki drew out his saber at lightning speed, and in front of the surprised eyes of Ishigaki Ryu and Uruheitsi. Heimushi's right hand holding the fierce blade broke, and in just a moment Heimushi fell into a disadvantage. Real or fake? Who is this Yuta Otsutsuki? Wu Lu Hengxi was starting to back out. Shi Lulong seemed unusually calm, and said slowly. Let's wait and see. How can we retreat without fighting without knowing the other party's strength? Wu Lu Hengxi felt that what Shi Lulong said made sense, and planned to wait and see. Heimusi subconsciously wanted to catch the severed hand that flew in the air. Yuta did not give the opponent any chance, and threw the saber in his hand to stab the severed hand. The severed hand was firmly fixed on the brick by the saber, and Yuta took the opportunity to fight Heimusi in close combat. With the force of his arm, all the cursed power was concentrated in his elbow. Heimusi felt pain but could do nothing. He had no weapon in his hand, and it was almost impossible for him to resist. The cursed spirit flew out with white eyes. Yuta looked sick, but when you really fight with him, you will know how powerful he is. The wings behind him spread out, buying him a little breathing space. At the same time, it reduced the impact brought by Yuta, and he was not seriously injured in this attack. Yuta then ran onto the bridge deck and removed a large stone brick, throwing it in the direction of Heimusi in midair. Just when Heimusi was adjusting his state, Yuta had already got his saber. Is he really a modern sorcerer? What a clear idea, and very strong. Uruhenzi agreed. They haven't seen such a strong swimmer for a long time. They are just fighting physically. Yuta Otsutsuki has not yet shown his true strength. It remains to be seen. With his super jumping ability, Yuta Otsutsukoshi jumped several meters high. He jumped to the top of Heimushi's head and chopped him down again. He didn't understand why the sorcerer in front of him was so strong. He was a special grade cursed spirit, but he didn't have the strength to fight back. It's stuck. Your arms are really stiff. Squeak. The cursed spirit could not speak, and could only answer Yuta Otsutsukoshi with random sounds. He seemed unwilling to give up, and the next moment he released all his cursed power. The entire cursed spirit's body turned into a raging tide of insects. Someone is watching me. Who could it be? Yuta Otsutsukoda felt two pairs of eyes staring at him, but the other party was hiding too well. He didn't know who was watching the battle, and why they were hiding if they were not enemies. The insect swarm was accompanied by a howling wind, and the insect swarm was about to surround Yuta Otsutsukoda, as if to eat him up. Heimyu is dead because of a cursed spirit. Just treat him like you would treat Tiger Stick. If you inject the positive pull of the reversal technique into his body, you can kill him completely. No, if the two hiding ones knew that I could use the reversal spell, it would be like exposing a trump card. Rika is protecting the ordinary people in the gym, no one can help me. Otsutsukoda has to successfully kill Haimashi without Rika's help and get points without the help of the reversal technique. This is undoubtedly a huge challenge for him. Why interfere? Why are you trying to kill me? Yuta was stunned at first, then he realized that it was Heimyu who was talking. So you can speak, why could you only squeak just now? I still have many things to ask you. The earthworms are surging. Two worms appeared beside Heimyu, and a huge swarm of worms enveloped Yuta Otsutsukoda. Yuta Otsutsukoda, who had noticed something was wrong in advance, quickly inserted his sword into the ground. The sword was attached with magical power, and it relied on the huge magical power to disperse the swarm of worms. While Haimashi was distracted, Yuta Otsutsuki quickly killed the two Shikigami. At this time, Haimashi's broken hand had been restored, and the evil blade was back in Haimashi's hand. He rushed towards Yuta Otsutsuki with the evil blade, and used the magic power to increase the speed of flight. Yuta Otsutsuki subconsciously drew his sword to block. You've fallen into the trap. Do you think it's just an ordinary knife? In fact, he had a vague feeling that there was something wrong with this knife, but he couldn't put his finger on it. He first retreated a few steps and crawled away from Heimyu. Not long after, veins on Yuta's face bulged. Two big bugs grew on his left shoulder, and the wound was bleeding. After cutting off the two bugs on his shoulder, Heimyu seized the opportunity and slashed Yuta's stomach with a knife. Bugs kept coming out of the wound on his abdomen. Is this the end? I thought he was so strong. Shi Lulong also echoed. Just an arrogant challenger. It's so boring, let's all go back. Haimusi grabbed Yuta Otsutsukoda's neck with 4 hands, wanting to eat him up. Yuta Otsutsukoda's eyes suddenly opened, and Haimusi was stunned. Logically, Yuta Otsutsukoda should have been dead, as his own bugs had ripped him apart. It was impossible for him to survive. Yuta Otsutsukoda's eyes at this moment were like a madman. He had just used the reversal technique to repair his own wounds. So he created a state of suspended animation and deceived Haimusi. He opened his teeth and bit Haimusi's neck, tearing it apart directly. Unexpectedly, Yuta Otsutsukoda bit off Haimusi's entire neck. He spit out the blood in his mouth and looked at Haimusi's body with disdain. Congratulations to Yuta Otsutsuki for killing Heimyu. Get 5 points. It is a reversal technique. It can actually output externally, what a freak. Use your palm and mouth, which is the shortest distance from the brain, to inject positive energy into Haimashi's head. Even if someone could think of such a method, few people would do it. Kurogi Haitsu was very surprised after hearing this. It turned out that Yuta Otsutsuki had been holding back. If Yuta Otsutsuki had used the reversal technique at the beginning, Heimyu would definitely not have been able to hold out for so long. It can be seen that Yuta Otsutsuki was able to hide his trump card. So you can use the reversal technique. Otsutsukoda heard a strange voice and turned around in fear. Kurusuru Henksi released the technique and hit Otsutsukoda. He didn't have time to react and was hit by the opponent's technique. He was heavily embedded in the wall. What was the shock just now? What a strange spell. While Yuta Otsutsuki was thinking, Kurusu Henksi punched him. He dodged the punch with a slight twist of his head. Kurusu Henksi was still very surprised. Yuta Otsutsuki not only had a lot of cursed power, but also had strong combat ability. He wanted to fight back, but when he punched out, he was surprised to find that his arm began to twist and he could not use any strength. Kurusu Henksi punched Yuta Otsutsuki in the face. The opponent's spell was very strange, so he did not dare to continue the attack rashly. Yuta Otsutsuki found that his arm was limp and powerless, so he had to resist the attack while retreating towards the open terrain. The area near the bridge was too narrow to exert his full strength. Yuta Otsutsuki waved his arm, and the arm that was twisted just now had recovered. The arm is back and I have no feeling in it. It is probably a technique to manipulate space, but it cannot distort the opponent as well. It feels like the refraction and distortion of light. It is a rather useless ability. If used well, it can effectively suppress the opponent. Kurogi Hitsu saw Yuta Otsutsu's doubts. Anyway, she didn't intend to hide it. She casually grabbed the invisible object and said, "My spell can grasp the plane of the sky. Just like this." As Wulu Hengxi's voice fell, a corner of the sky was like a quilt, casually fiddled in his hands. Otsuketa's two attacks were blocked by Wulu Hengxi's strange technique. That was also considered a plane. The expression on the opponent's face was not right, and he seemed very anxious. Knowing that there might be a trick, he decided to wait and see. A rash attack would only increase the risk. Let me ask you, are you the kind of person who would be forgiven even if you were killed? I can understand people who need points but lack the strength to sacrifice their lives. But for a strong person like you, it's easy to get points. Why do you want to fight actively? In other words, what is your purpose in accumulating points? Kurogi Hiroko was annoyed by Otsutsuko Yuta's series of questions and said helplessly. It's really infuriating. For us, this is a chance for rebirth. We, the magicians who were reborn in the flesh, all left regrets the first time. In addition, Nozomi's plan is very interesting, so most of us will agree. Otsukatsu didn't listen to what he was saying, but talked to himself. He didn't take Usagi Hengxi seriously. Why can you fight so hard for your own selfish desires? Kurogi Heiko was really angry this time, because she saw that the guy in front of her was completely a descendant of Sugawara, and he still couldn't change his bad habit of nagging. Are you a descendant of Sugawara? What do the disciples of aristocratic families know? They are freshmen. On a tall building not far away, Shi Lulong had already prepared the spell, and took advantage of the gap between the two people's conversation to launch the spell. Ice Smoothie Shock Wave. The huge shock wave flew towards Yuta Otsutsukoda. Shi Lulong had a sinister look on his face, and his smile could not be concealed at all. This sneak attack was indeed beautifully played, and Yuta Otsutsukoda was not a vegetarian either. After resisting the blow, he used the reversal spell to quickly repair the wounds on his body. Several miles around were blown up by the shock wave, but fortunately Li Shang was in the gymnasium. If there was another attack like this, the gymnasium would definitely not be able to withstand it. At this time, the three people each had their own calculations in their hearts. Yuta Otsutsukoda wanted to kill the two quickly, Shi Lulong planned to destroy this area, and Wulu Hengxi felt that Shi Lulong was useless and wanted to kill the two together. Hey, what are you doing? It almost exploded on me. Wulu Hengxi tore off a corner of the sky just before the explosion to block the explosion. It's just that you guys keep flirting with each other, which makes me very upset. Flirting, Wulu Hengxi thought to himself, Shi Lulong is probably here to cause trouble. Kill him when he's not paying attention. The three of them had the same idea in their minds. Yuta Otsutsuko rushed towards Ishigaki Ryu, running very fast under the blessing of the curse. Wulu Hengxi next to him disappeared from their sight. She was planning something bigger. Could you please be more low-key? I don't want to make too much noise. Shi Lulong flatly rejected Yuta's request. Of course not, that wouldn't be fun for me. Keep it down, are you kidding me? Imagine a delicious meal in front of a child, and you tell him to eat slowly and not to rush. Shi Lulong lit a cigarette, slowly exhaled smoke rings, and said something inappropriate to Yuta Okatsu. This is the first time in my life that I am 8/10 full. I have fought with powerful people. I once met a beautiful lady. Otsutsuki, everyone is looking at me with this expression, as if telling me, what's there to be dissatisfied about? This brand of cigarette has a sweet aftertaste. But my life has been full of suffering. Ishigaki Ryu, who had his hands in his pockets, took his hands away, and Yuta Otsutsu realized that his speech was over. He took a fighting stance to welcome Ishigaki Ryu's attack, and sure enough, Ishigaki Ryu drew his fist and punched Yuta Otsutsu. Yuta Otsutsu, who had been prepared in advance, just took a few steps back and was not hurt. This punch was very painful, although Yuta Otsutsu blocked it. In the process of continuous fighting, Yuta Otsutsu found that Ishigaki Ryu's attack was very special. High output plus the burst of cursed power, the attack is sharp, if I don't defend seriously, I will definitely get hurt. The two fists rubbed together, and Yuta Otsutsuki was unable to block it and almost flew out. Shiliulong's cursed power was too terrifying, and it was not on the same level as the others. People always ask me why I am not satisfied. I'll tell you the truth, Yutsutsuki, because you're not satisfied, you seek excitement. Yutsutsuki Yuta was a little flustered. The punch just now was not light, and it took a long time for him to recover. Shilulong took advantage of the victory and rushed towards the place where Yutsutsuki Yuta disappeared. It didn't take long for him to find Yutsutsuki Yuta. Sensing Shilulong's breath behind him, Yutsutsuki Yuta dodged Shilulong's fist. Ice Smoothie Shockwave. Otsutsukoda stretched out his hands to block it. This attack was nothing compared to the shockwave just now. The shockwave just now was very lethal, but this time it was released in just a moment. The damage was much smaller, so Otsutsukoda could block it with both hands. Blocked it with bare hands. I found out, you are my dessert, Yuta Otsutsuki. Otsutsuki, who was already seriously injured, was even more defenseless against the sudden appearance of Kurosaki Henksei behind him. Even if he sensed Kurosaki Henksei's aura in advance, he couldn't defend himself at all. In his current state, two fists could not beat four hands. Turning his head slightly, he roughly understood Kurosaki Henksei's technique. The target is not people, but the sky and the plane. Cut the plane together with the opponent. Shilulong was very angry when he saw Wooloo Henksei appear, and scolded her to stay out of the way, saying that Yuta Otsutsuki was his prey. His cursed energy hasn't run out yet, but it looks like there isn't much left. Fighting 3 people in a row, his physical strength and magic power must be seriously insufficient. Otsutsukoshi Yuta wanted to move the battlefield away from the stadium where ordinary people stayed, but now it seems that there is no way. He took off the ring in his hand and then said slowly, "Come on, Rika." Shiliulong was very confused about the appearance of Rika. He had never seen Rika before and thought that this was Yuta Otsutsu's backup. However, the Shikigami's cursed power was sufficient, and Yuta Otsutsu was also constantly recovering his cursed power. Rika was originally a Shikigami created by Yuta Otsutsu with cursed power, so she could provide Yuta Otsutsu with cursed power in reverse. Yuta, which one do you want to use? The real Rika has become a Buddha, but she left the external technique in the cursed force storage container to Yuta Otsutsukoshi. Just use that. You can contact Rika through the ring, and the magic power recovery time is only 5 minutes, but it is enough to deal with 2 people. Let's start with you. Don't move. Kurogi Heizi realized that she had been tricked. Affected by the curse, she stood there motionless, as if she had lost her soul. Rika went around behind Kurogi Heizi, ready to cooperate with Otsutsuki Yuta at any time. Otsutsuki Yuta punched her, but Kurogi Heizi could not move because of the curse and could only stand there and passively take the beating. Rika, here we come. You guys are too sweet. Shilulong ran beside Yuta Okatsu, and seemed to think Rika was very interesting. Yuta Okatsu used Rika's arm to jump out. He released the shockwave, and Rika appeared behind Yuta Okatsu and released the shockwave for him. Just like Yuta Otsutsukoshi, he can block it with both hands. Even stronger than him, Yuta Otsutsuki pulled out his hair, and he used it as a sister to summon a new Shikigami. This is a new move he has researched. Otsutsuki returned to the battlefield, and Ishiryu Ryu was very excited. He interrupted the fight between him and Otsutsuki. Rika's huge fist hit Ishiryu Ryu in the face, but he did not flinch, but met the fist. He took the blow hard, and then gave it back to Rika completely. He responded to his opponent in the same way. He stroked his crew cut, and at this moment he was extremely excited. Let me enjoy the fight to my heart's content. Wooloo Henksei felt very strange. What Yuta Okatsu used just now was the technique of Dorub. Not long ago, Yuta Okatsu used a spell, so it was impossible for him to use other techniques. Now Wooloo Henksei understood that Yuta Okatsu's technique was imitation, and the kind of imitation without side effects. The melee continued. Rika fought against Ishiryu Ryu, and Yuta Okatsu fought against Wooloo Henksei. Yuta Okatsu and Rika had the upper hand, and the two were defeated one after another. I don't know what the ancestors did to you. But I understand one thing. If people live only for themselves, they will reach their limit sooner or later. This remark angered Wu Hengxi, who was completely different from her philosophy. Those who talk so much are always those people. Shi Lulong appeared behind Yuta Otsutsukoda and shouted, still talking nonsense at this time. He patted his chest, his eyes were extremely excited. Since the three of them had reached a situation of life and death, Yuta Otsutsukoda had to use his last trump card. It is well known that it is a way to judge whether one can become a strong man. Domain is an indispensable skill. There is a world of difference between a sorcerer with domain and one without domain. Domain expansion. The three said this in unison. The expansion of the domain pushed the Shantai barrier to the commanding heights of the battle. The domain is the strongest battle between sorcerers. When multiple domains collide, all the sure hit spells will be completely invalid at this moment. No one can gain the upper hand in the domain. Kurushi Hengxi, keep an eye on Rika and don't let her enter your area. Rika can restore the cursed power for Yuta Otsutsukoda continuously. If we can isolate her, we are halfway to victory. Shi Lulong and Wu Hengxi agreed on this. A barrier was formed with the three of them as the center. The area was already constructed, and Rika, who arrived late, could not enter the barrier. There was still some will of Rika in Yuta Okatsu's body, and he noticed Yuta Okatsu's condition. Rika opened a blood-red eye between her brows, and her cursed power was raised to a higher level. Just when Rika was about to attack the domain barrier, Haimashi, who was just confirmed dead, appeared on the battlefield and blocked Rika's way. It turned out that this was Haimashi's child. When the main body dies, the child will inherit all the cursed power of the main body. As a swimmer, Haimashi died, but his cursed power will continue. The domain was already full of complicated spells, and with the intrusion of cursed spirits, it collapsed in an instant. Haimashi's cursed power was originally counteracted by Urusei Hengxi, and now it was her turn to be unlucky. She just stood there motionless, as if the system had crashed. All this could not escape his eyes. Yuta Okatsu seized the hard-won opportunity and rushed behind Urusei Hengxi. He grabbed his right foot and kicked him, severely injuring him. As soon as Urusei Hengxi landed, she hurriedly launched her own spell to resist Yuta Okatsu, trying to stop his attack. But she ignored the expansion of the domain. The technique will enter the fuse period. That is to say, for a short period of time, Karasuru Hengxi will not be able to use the technique. The technique cannot be used smoothly, and the offspring who inherited the power of the Kurumu death curse will not recognize them. A knife hit Karasuru Hengxi's arm. The damage was not high but the sequelae were terrible. Insect seeds will be buried in the injured place. In just a blink of an eye, Karasuru Hengxi's entire left arm was eaten up. Karasuru Hengxi will not reverse the technique, so this arm must not be kept. Rika stepped forward to destroy the arm, and now Karasuru Hengxi's condition is very bad, and it is very likely that she will die here. Otsutsuki Yuta, you are trying to root out the problem. Even using the reversal technique, the broken arm cannot be repaired. Shi Lulong, who had been watching the battle on the side, suddenly attacked. Everyone entered the spell fuse period and could not use spells. Shi Lulong seemed to be unaffected, perhaps the fuse period had passed. He naturally sent out a shock wave. This attack was not to attack Yuta, but to Wu Hengxi. Wu Hengxi, who was already seriously injured, had no spare energy to block the shock wave, and could only watch the shock wave hit himself. Shi Lulong is a person who can use the same attack regardless of whether the spell is used or not. In other words, the spell fuse is nothing to him, and it is easy for him to release the power of the shock wave. Wu Heng fell to the ground and Haimu also lost half of his body. The cursed spirit focused all its attention on Shi Lulong, and I didn't notice Yuta approaching. Reverse the spell to output in the reverse direction, just like killing Haimu, casually killing the cursed spirit that inherited the curse power. The special grade cursed spirit died again, and Yuta killed the weaker special grade like killing a chicken. It was just a casual thing. Finally, it's finally here. Otsutsuki Yuta, only you can make me happy. Come on, let me see all of you. Shi Lulong closed his eyes and saw the table was full of desserts. He was very satisfied with it. Rika, is it possible? Yuta, I can do it. Yuta Otsutsu's technique has not been restored yet. Only with Rika by his side can he achieve a high output of cursed energy. If he wants to win the battle, he must release the cursed energy in front of Shiliu Long. But Yuta Otsutsu didn't release it in advance. He was waiting for a suitable opportunity. Wait until Shiliu Long completes the condensation of cursed energy. The moment the two looked at each other, he saw the desire in Shiliu Long's eyes, a passion spanning 400 years. Shiliu Long wanted to fight with all his strength to satisfy his competitiveness. He wanted to completely satisfy his regrets. Yuta Otsutsu didn't say anything, but instead planned to go crazy. It's time to get on with it, Rika. Come on, Otsutsuki, let me taste you. The next moment, Otsutsuki Yuta felt a sense of crisis. Even with Rika's help, Shiliu Long's curse power output was still slightly better. The shock wave disrupted his curse power with overwhelming force. Otsutsuki, you are awesome. I haven't been this excited for a long time. Shiliu Long experienced a whole new life. For him, Otsutsuki was simply too perfect. A perfect opponent. The cursed spirit of Otsutsuki Yuta came from the ruins. Seeing Otsutsuki Yuta who was not defeated, Shiliu Long was even happier. This was the battle he had always dreamed of, a hearty battle. That's it. Keep fighting, Yuta Otsutsuki, let me see your limit. Shiliu Long was so excited that he didn't care about the feelings of the fainted Wulu Hengxi. He was completely immersed in the battle and couldn't extricate himself. This is the highest realm of fighting, enjoying the battle. Rika and Yuta Otsutsuki acted separately. He knew that his magic power could not resist the opponent, so he could only find another shortcut. Yuta Otsutsuki took the opportunity to rush out and wanted to sneak attack Shiliu Long. Is this the technique of Hitsi Uesugi? That's it, even crazier. Otsutsuko Yu had copied the technique of Urusugi Hengxi long ago, and the shockwave just now only made him fly away, without actually causing any harm. This was just a false impression for him to see, so that Shiliu Long would think that he had no cursed power, so that he would not be suspected if he got close to him. Yumori Raiden. Yuta Otsutsuko's technique hit Ishiguro Ryu, and he finally understood why Urusei Keiko was suppressed. This guy's technique is to unconditionally imitate and find a restraining relationship to defeat the opponent. Are you surprised? My technique is to copy, as you guessed. Shiliu Long wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. Even if it is unconditional copying, a medium is still needed. When is it? Could it be? As if she thought of something, the broken arm of Kurusu Hengxi disappeared. It was Rika who did it. Rika swallowed the broken arm. As Yuta Otsutsu's Shikigami, they are one. Rika swallowing is also Yuta Otsutsu's swallowing. After the medium is reached, Kurusu Hengxi's technique can be used. Shiliu Long was careless and did not expect this. Yuta Otsutsu was smart. Both her strength and combat IQ were super high. The shock wave was resolved and Shiliu Long could no longer attack. When he wanted to condense the shock wave again, Rika rushed up and interrupted Shiliu Long. Ritual. Yuta Otsutsukoda took advantage of the gap and used a ritual to pull down a corner of the sky. The balance of victory was already determined, and all fell in the direction of Yuta Otsutsukoda. Ishiryu Ryu was beaten by Yuta Otsutsukoda without any chance to fight back. Most of Rika's body disappeared, and the 5-minute medium was up. Ishiryu Ryu took the opportunity to attack Rika. He was already weak and after being hit by a punch, he couldn't even maintain his entity. Only a cloud of black smoke was left lingering in place. Yuta Otsutsukoda stepped forward to fight with Ishiryu Ryu, and each punch hit the vital point accurately. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.